All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you this afternoon to Coeur d'Alene School District 271 regular board meeting of May 8th, 2023. Would everyone please rise and together we'll share in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. I'd like to introduce our participants for this afternoon. Starting at my far right is Miss Marianne Southwick, Clerk of the Board, Dr. Sean Hawker, Superintendent. To my left is Mr. Casey Morrisroe, Vice Chair, Miss Leslie Bierke, Board Member, Miss Heather Tenbrink, Board Member, Miss Allie Anderton, Board Member, and I'm Rebecca Smith, Board Chair. Public comment on district-related items is scheduled near the start of this meeting. Please sign in on the sheet provided at the entrance door or that I believe is still outside. Comments may also be submitted to the board via email at trustees@cdaschools.org or in writing through the clerk. Thank you. Is there a motion today to approve today's agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, we will begin working our way through our agenda today. First up, we have a couple of recognitions that we're going to do today. And so our first recognition is going to be for Fernand STEM Academy, and they have done some incredible work. After a 10-year-long journey, we are pleased to announce that our accreditation provider, Cognia, has designated Fernand STEM Academy as a fully recognized STEM certified school, which is one of only 75 schools so honored in the United States. Yeah, let's give it a round of applause. I think that's awesome. This significant milestone highlights the school's commitment to providing high-quality STEM education. The certification is a rigorous evaluation of the school's STEM programs, curriculum, instruction, and dedication to achievement. This recognition acknowledges the hard work and dedication of the school's faculty and staff. It reassures parents and students that they receive a top-notch education to prepare them for success in STEM fields. And I'm going to call up some of our staff that's here today. So today, representing Fernand's faculty, staff, and students, we're pleased to welcome Kathy Livingston, Principal, Sandy Doring, Assistant Principal, Shelby Randolph, Title I Teacher, Misty Rookty, Jennifer Durocher, Melanie Lenz, Stephanie Cove, Susie Brott, Erin Hayes, Judy Beasley, who is a former district educator and statewide capacity builder, Archer Harris, who is a student and SAG member. Oh, and he was not able to be here. This is kind of some great stuff here. Teachers worked with community partners such as the U of I, NIC, the Pacific Science Center, Radical Rick, Mobius Center, and our PTA for professional development, resources, grants, and guidance. Fernand STEM Academy's achievement of Cognia STEM certification is a proud moment for our school and for our district, and congratulations on all of your achievement.
We just wanted to take a moment to explain the process for you. So about 10 years ago, the school had some declining enrollment, reached out to the community, and discovered that STEM was the focus that their stakeholders wanted to go. And so it's been a long journey for us, but the certification process itself, we went through the STEM Action Center, Idaho STEM Action Center, to do some learning about STEM certification, and it's taken us almost 2 years. So this really is a huge accomplishment for us, and we're very proud to be here tonight. We wish to thank our staff, our students, PTA, and our families who've been very supportive of us over the years, as well as many community partners along with the ones that have already been named. They've always been there for us throughout this STEM journey, and we look forward to continuing our STEM practices over the next few years. Thank you.
Congratulations. They have this really large certificate that is so large that they didn't want to bring it tonight and risk it being dropped. Well done. Next up, we've got our Teachers of the Month.
All right. For the month of April, our elementary teacher of the month was Shannon Twillman. She's a kindergarten teacher at Northwest Expedition Academy. Excuse me. Her principal says that she has supported her peers' work in developing project-based learning, as well as helping to grow understanding with thinking strategies in the workshop model. She's been a strong member growing our school team. So congratulations to Mrs. Twillman. Another elementary teacher of the month in April is a first grade teacher at Hayden Meadows Elementary, Courtney Hutchins. Her vice principal said she's recognized by her colleagues to be a lead teacher and helping to build the leadership team. And she's a participant in the Teacher Learning Academy and a thoughtful and intentional educator. So congratulations to Ms. Hutchins. And then our middle school teacher of the month for April was Aaron Fox. He's the woodshop teacher at Lakes Middle School. He said this year has been his first year as the woodshop teacher, and his principal said he's successfully written a number of grants to provide more and better equipment to the program, and they have more students than ever choosing to take woodshop as their elective. He works tirelessly to make sure the students he teaches get a real-world introduction to the many job and career opportunities open to students. So congratulations to Mr. Fox.
Our next recognition tonight is for H4, which is Hard Hats, Hammers, Hot Dogs. Did I say that right? Hard Hats, Hammers, and Hot Dogs. It's a skilled trades high school career day where students can learn about construction careers, try hands-on activities, talk to experts, and even operate heavy machinery. I'd like to welcome up Director Colby Matilla, Sarah Cottom, Christina Petit, and Kristen Parker, if you'd want to come on up. And then I want to tell you more about it. And welcome. Thank you. So for 13 years, Hard Hats, Hammers, and Hot Dogs has given North Idaho high school students exposure to career options across the construction, manufacturing, and production industries. Over 450 students attended this year's event. Cortland Public Schools appreciates your participation and continued support for this event and assisting the education of our high school students as they pursue vocational job opportunities. Sounds like a great event.
A big thank you out to the community, the ABC, the AGC, for helping us out. It's a big event. It's a year in planning. Sarah has to deal with me on a regular basis. So thank you, Sarah. Bring students in from all over Region 1 to expose them into the career fields. It's a huge day for our students. Shuts us down as a school, and we couldn't be more happy. You want to say something, Sarah, from the ABC? Also, I don't know if you guys saw in the Coeur d'Alene Press this week, we had our big signing day at K-Tech where we had 10 students recognized for going into industry and the military. It's a big day for them. It's a big event. So we have 2 going full rides to college through the dealerships here in town. So we're pretty excited about that.
Incredible. Only if your names are right.
Either all open or all open. Okay, ready?
Oh, next up we have our high school student body reports. And do we have a video first? We've got Lake City High School.
Good evening, esteemed board chair, honorable trustees, Superintendent Hawker, and district administration. My name is Jacob Carter, and I'm the Lake City High School ASB president. Joined with me today is my ASB treasurer, Allie Bowman, my ASB secretary, Olivia Azzolini, and my ASB vice president, Piper Stevens.
Last month was a busy one at LC. We'd first like to congratulate some amazing Teal athletes. Baseball, softball, and tennis are all getting geared up for districts and state this month. Our athletes are working so hard and getting amazing results. Our amazing track team is also working super hard and just recently came back from a meet in Walla Walla. Words can't express how happy and proud of our sports programs and coaches.
In activity news, we sent 21 of our DECA students to Orlando, Florida for the DECA Nationals. While they were there, they competed in all their events and represented Lake City so well. We are so proud of these students, and we're so happy they got to experience that amazing event. We also held our ASB elections for 2023-2024 school year. We had so many amazing candidates, and we are so proud of everyone who ran. Our class elections are underway, and live speeches will take place on May 12th.
This week at Lake City, we have had an awesome Teacher Appreciation Week, and our students have written staff shout-outs with sticky notes on posters throughout the school. We truly appreciate all our teachers and how dedicated they are to Lake City. Also this week, we are holding our second annual Peanut Butter and Jelly Drive, where we collect peanut butter and jelly jars to donate to our local food banks. And so far, it's going well. And finally, one of the most outstanding events of the semester happened mid-April. Our LCHS instrumental and vocal music programs were once again invited to compete in the prestigious Seattle Heritage Music Festival. More than 100 students traveled to Seattle for a 3-day action-packed competition. Students performed beautifully, and everyone did such a wonderful job. At a dinner on April 15th, our choirs and instrumental groups were honored with multiple gold and silver ratings. We are so very proud of our amazing music program under the direction of Shad Frazier and Brittany Fundheller.
Lastly, our upcoming events in May start with our senior prom that is this Saturday at the Hagedorn Event Center. We sold out of tickets so quickly, and we are all very excited for it. Our choir is also heading down to the solo ensemble this week, and we wish them the best of luck. Next week, our Sources of Strength and Student Council is putting on a Hope Week that is going to spread encouragement and hope for our students. We are also putting on a film festival that will premiere on May 22nd. Students get the opportunity to submit a short film to be presented at the festival. On the 24th, our seniors will participate in presenting their senior projects they are working so hard on. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you tonight, and we'll see you next week.
And I believe we have a video from Venture.
A couple weeks back, student Justice Ellis started a newspaper for students at Fincher High School called the Finchering Fox. Ellis decided to pursue this project because he wanted to inform people about the school district and about the upcoming levy. The newspaper shows off current events in the school, as well as the district, with a weekly artist from the school usually being showcased on the back. Ellis hopes to keep putting out issues of the newspaper in the near future. On March 17th, Fincher had a recreational basketball game against New Vision High School from Post Falls. The event took place at Fincher and ended in a win for our team, 46-32. Fincher started slow by falling behind 6 points, but quickly got their rhythm due to nice layups, rebounds, and three-pointers, allowing them to pull it off in the end. The coach for Fincher was no other than our own physical education and health teacher, Tony Hook. Wanting to provide an out-of-the-ordinary opportunity for our students, he approached several students who play basketball during lunch to participate. Not only were the basketball players involved, but in the Fincher fashion, other school programs stepped up. The communication graphic class designed and printed the jerseys for the team. Math teacher Mr. Gonzalez and student Jackson Dean did a choreographed dance number to the song Biscuit by Raven and Kyron. Several teachers stepped into various roles, including officiating and tracking points after finding out that the scoreboard, last used over 5 years ago, didn't work. After the game, leadership hosted some gym games for our student body to participate in, and our culinary students showed up with treats. Along with our traditional St. Patrick's Day barbecue, the day activities were a great way to end the week. This past Tuesday, April 24th, the juniors and seniors that wanted to participate went to a government warehouse that was over by Woodland Middle School to help prepare trees to give to the 4th graders. They were preparing the earth for the younger generation, says student Warren Cross. This is a tradition that has been alive at Fincher for over 25 years. This tradition all started when Fincher still had a daycare. One of the teacher's husbands has been bagging saplings for a while, and she got the idea to incorporate it into Fincher in honor of Arbor Day. Arbor Day is dedicated annually to public tree planting in the U.S., Australia, and other countries. It is usually observed in late April or early May.
Thank you, Venture. I'd like to welcome up Coeur d'Alene High School to the podium for your presentation. Where are you?
Is it on now? There we go. Good evening, esteemed board chair, honorable trustees, Superintendent Hawker, district employees, and valued community members. My name is Andy Jane Howard, and I'm Coeur d'Alene High School's ASB president. And joining me tonight is Jenny Elliott, our ASB secretary. April was a busy month for our students between tests, events, and spring sports. They had plenty to fill their schedules. Our juniors took both ISATs and SATs and are now rolling into AP tests. So if you know a junior, they probably need a hug. Our seniors are also preparing to present their senior projects. Student Council hosted our senior prom, which was a success, and we'd like to thank the Coeur d'Alene Event Center for hosting us each year. We'd also like to thank the junior class for putting it on. We also had our annual boys volleyball tournament, Buff and Tough, and we were glad to see the students finally beat the staff at our assembly this year. We would like to also recognize our DECA students who competed in DECA Nationals. We had Gracie Shaver, Garrett Schuterman, and Chris Scabbert make the stage and be recognized for their high scores. Chris and Garrett moved on to the final round of competition and competed well. Our drama department put on a wonderful production of Broadway's Frozen, and we were grateful to be home to such a wonderful program, and we hope you were all able to enjoy the students' hard work. Spring sports have been overwhelmingly successful for our Vikings. Our Viking softball team is currently sitting at first place in the Inland Empire, with our baseball team sitting at second and currently competing in districts right now. Our Vikings have also had a successful track season and are getting ready for regionals. There is a lot of action down on the tennis courts, and we are proud of both boys and girls' undefeated seasons. We cannot wait to see these athletes move on to districts, regionals, and state. May brings a lot of senior events. We are excited for parents to celebrate their seniors at Mother-Daughter Tea, which is happening right now, and Father-Son Barbecue, which is Monday the 15th. Our Senior Sunset Dance is May 16th as well. We're especially excited for our annual Mr. CHS pageant on May 25th. And we also encourage our community to come support our choir program at Viking Talent Night this Wednesday at 7 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Would now like to invite our Student Advisory Group, also known as SAG, to give their report this evening, and welcome.
Test. All right. Good evening, Dr. Hawker, esteemed trustees, and Ms. Southwick. My name is Dylan Jones, and I'm head chair of Student Advisory Group. I'm joined with our middle school and elementary school representatives tonight. On April 19th, our SAG high school representatives met with Mr. Derrick and both LCHS and CHS principals to discuss the results of our student survey that we put out earlier in the year. We discussed some of the trends of the survey, which included student and teacher relationships and mental health support. The meeting led us to discuss that a student/teacher mentor program could be really helpful in making sure each student has an adult that they can check in with occasionally. This could look like a once-a-month homeroom check-in, or even more often than that, excuse me. Both schools are excited to look into how we can connect students with teachers beyond the academic classroom environment. On April 20th, we had our monthly SAG meeting at Coeur d'Alene High. We discussed Policy 3081, the procedure for restroom availability. We discussed this as a group and submitted a public comment. We support this policy primarily, but just had a concern that the students have to have parent permission to grant access to a single-use bathroom. We don't feel that this is truly necessary. We spent the rest of our time researching and discussing activities, events, and programs that other schools are successfully implementing to increase positive culture and belonging in their schools. We want to tackle the issue from our survey that a lot of students would like to see an increasingly positive culture in their school for all kids of varying skills, abilities, and interests. Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Hawker, esteemed board member, and Mrs. Southwick. My name is Kyra Ellsworth, and I go to Woodland Middle School. At our April 26th meeting, we invited Mr. Derrick, Mr. Ducar, and our principals and vice principals to join us in discussing our two biggest problems that students said concerning to them: school lunch food and the school workload. Together, we worked on discussing why we thought these were the biggest concerns. We spent most of our time coming up with solutions. We broke into two big groups. One group was with Mr. Derrick and discussing school workload, and the other group was with Mr. Ducar and discussing school lunches. In the lunch food group, some of our solutions for lunch food were build food bars, check the expiration dates, figure out the timing of lunches. A lunch survey will be created to give feedback on lunches. Mr. Ducar will be giving a reminder to lunch crews in each building to keep food out and available for all students in the entire lunch period. We agreed to create a short feedback survey between now and our next meeting so that students can give a feedback to our cafe workers. I was in the group that was working on school workload and how to support students with stress that might come from the homework or feeling unprepared or disorganized. Some of the ideas students came up with for the school workload were research different calendars, apps, and paper planners that might be useful for all students to choose from as an organizational tool while in middle school, create mini lessons for organization, life, skills, etc., so we can be proactive and teach students some skills they might need in the future. We also talked about working with sources of strength in each building so that these lessons made it possible for all students to hear. We also agreed that having some built-in choice time for students during the school day would be a great way for students to get what they need. We will be working on a more specific statement at our final meeting of the year to present to you. Thank you for having us.
Hello, Dr. Harker, Mrs. Southwick, and board members. My name is Georgia Carr, and I am a 5th grader at Skyway Elementary School. This is my first year in the Student Advisory Group. At last month's SAG meeting, we were able to watch our new video about SAG. Our video has introductions of who we are and what school we represent, what the Student Advisory Group is about, and why all of us wanted to be a part of SAG. We were happy with the results, and we are very thankful to Mr. King for putting it together for us. It was really fun working with the drone that captured some great images of our group. We will present the video at our all SAG meeting, which will be on May 22nd at Coeur d'Alene High School, and we are working with administrators on how to get the video out to our elementary schools to encourage students to apply for SAG next year. We also looked at results from our survey. We received 711 responses, and for our first survey, we were really pleased with how many students participated. At our next meeting, we will make a list of the top concerns of the students and share that with the instructional core group. We also had a visit from Mr. Ducar, and he talked to us about our nutrition concerns at the elementary schools, and he was very kind in answering all of our questions. As a group, we will gather the most pressing concerns and share that with him. He was very interested in what we had to say. Mrs. Morrison also came in for a visit, and it was great to have the chance to talk to her about some of our suggestions that have come through the suggestion boxes. She was encouraging all of us to continue to chat with our principals in schools about the importance of SAC and being a voice for the kids at our schools. We felt very special because we had two administrators visit us in 2 hours. We also extended our meetings times to 2 hours. We have a lot to talk about and have a lot of great ideas. If you have any questions, please let us know. Thank you for your time.
Are there any board questions for our SAG representatives?
I do have one for a middle school rep. So when you talk about the heavy workload, are you referring to classwork or homework?
Personally, I think it's both from the feel of the surveys, how like some people thought that the due dates like were too quick, like it was a really big project and the due date was too soon and they didn't have enough time, or they just felt like that they were giving overpiled with homework from several classes. So I think that was the main situation or problem.
Okay, so more during the day as opposed to homework?
I think it was more homework, but during the day was also a problem too.
And this is kind of a broad question, but it's more for my curiosity. Do you happen to know, like on average, what a time like an average homework would take, an hour per night?
It really
2 hours?
depends on like what the
I
teacher
know.
gives you or like the student itself. Like for me, like depending on the assignment, it could be really quick or really fast. But then like if it's a student who struggles in that subject, then it also could be harder for them. So like I don't know if I could really give you an estimate.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. You did a good job.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Well, SAG students, we're really thankful for you and thankful for your reports and coming out tonight. You are welcome to stay if you so choose, or you're welcome to depart as you feel necessary. All right. So whichever way you'd like to do that. All right. We're going to move into we do have our CEA board report. And Mr. Hayes, would you like to, we have a copy of the CEA report. Yeah, unless there's any questions or, all right. Do you, nope. All right. Thank you. And thank you for that report. All right. We do want to move into public comment this evening. And so let's get situated. I want to remind the public that while this is a meeting of the Board of Trustees that takes place in public, it is not a meeting with the public. It's a meeting of the board to conduct district business. The board does allow public comment on district-related items, which is limited to no more than 45 minutes, unless a majority of the board votes to extend the time frame. Those wishing to address the board during this public comment period are limited to one comment, not to exceed 3 minutes. At the designated time, you will be called over to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence. Please keep in mind that the board members will not respond to public comment. If you have handouts for the board, please give them to our clerk, who will give them to us on your behalf. If I determine that an individual statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, or repetitive, I may terminate that speaker's privilege to address the board. If you have additional comments that you would like presented to the board, you may give those to us in writing. We do have a number of public comment this evening, and so we'll begin working our way through it. And thank you all for coming to give comment, and we'll see where we're at the end of 45 minutes. Okay, terrific. First up, and I have Judy Beasley. Apologies in advance if I get last names wrong. Great.
Good evening, Chair of the Board Smith, board members, Dr. Hawker, and fellow attendees to this meeting. I'm Judy Beasley.
Let's lean in. If you wouldn't mind, Judy, leading into the microphone, let's see if it's actually on.
Okay.
Is it on?
Does that
there?
help? Okay.
There you go. Thanks. Thank you.
You bet. I am Judy Beasley, a capacity builder with the Idaho Building Capacity Project, and it has been my honor to work with the administration staff at Fernand STEM Academy for most of my 9 years as a CB, but also in my role as a TOSA, a teacher on special assignment, and then as a math coach for the Coeur d'Alene School District for many years preceding that. I've had the unique opportunity to observe at Fernand, a neighborhood school in the Coeur d'Alene 271 school district, transform itself into Fernand STEM Academy, still a neighborhood school, dedicated to the learning of all students, where indeed all means all. While I was a math coach in the school, Fernand caught the attention of the State Department, and for the discrepancy in performance between the general population and some of the subpopulations. During this time, the staff chose to refocus itself to the improvement of learning for all students. They began their work on building PBLs, place-based learning units, that integrated subject matter and provided opportunities for student inquiry and voice. Excuse me. As this was unfolding, the ALP advanced learning students increased their interaction with the special needs students at the school. I remember one time when life-size drawings of these students were strategically placed around the building. Why did they do that? Because the ALP students had interviewed their friends to find out what they would like to be if they had no restrictions. That was why one wheelchair-bound child was positioned on the hall ceiling, cape fluttering as he flew free. That project evolved into Fernand STEM Academy, transforming their playground into a handicap-accessible playground. As time passed, the staff passion to provide outstanding educational opportunities for all students continued to evolve. Through the direction of the building administration, the teachers took on the transformative qualities of shared leadership. As a result, Fernand has fine-tuned their MTSS multi-tiered system of support process, embedded math and ELA data-driven dialogue days into the year, and has closely monitored their Tier 2 and Tier 3 students for appropriate interventions and growth. As the collective teacher efficacy has grown at the school, they have also diligently worked and prepared for the rigorous process of writing the narrative of and preparing evidence for their deep commitment to providing excellence opportunities in
Judy,
STEM
that's
education.
3 minutes. Do you want to wrap it up?
Through their hard work and laser focus on student learning, they have also moved out of support and improvement with the State Department of Education and no longer have a need for me as their building capacity builder. They truly represent the best in teachers who relentlessly collaborate, plan, and guide students
And thank you,
in their
Judy.
learning every day.
Thank you. Shelby Randolph. And so we can anticipate saving time today. We'll save our applause after each participant. Thank you.
Hello, Dr. Hawker, Chair of the Board, Ms. Smith, Ms. Southwick, board members, and fellow attendees of this meeting. My name is Shelby Randolph, and I'm a teacher and a Title I reading specialist in our district. I've been a teacher for over 15 years, and I'm lucky enough to grow up in Coeur d'Alene and attend Coeur d'Alene Public Schools since I was in kindergarten. I also have children in elementary school within our district, and I'm very proud of the education that they are receiving. I'm also a member of the ELA curriculum team that has worked tirelessly on our ELA curriculum. We've spent many hours going through and researching curriculum that will meet the needs of all students, all teachers, and our community. I'm very proud of the collaboration, the hard work of the educators on this team and all of the work that and collaboration they have shown. I'm also extremely thankful for the community members that also served on this team. The partnership has been very valuable to all of us. The community members on this team worked hard to make sure our community voices were heard and valued, right alongside educators from all elementary schools. Benchmark Advanced is a good choice for our schools. It pairs well with our teacher framework, will meet the needs of diverse readers and writers in our district. I encourage you to have conversations with educators, and if you have wonders, I encourage you to get inside of our schools. We will gladly invite you in to see the amazing things that are happening inside our walls. Also, I want to encourage our board members and our community members to join us on these teams and on these committees to work alongside all of us. I think if you did this, you would be very encouraged. I'm thankful for the work of this team and the partnership of the community to do what's best for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Price. And Amber Sear, you'll be up next.
Mark Price, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Is this on? Okay, I want to say something to the board members tonight.
Mr. Price, I don't think it's on.
Hello?
There it is.
Hello? Okay. So I want to address the board tonight. A few weeks back, we had an incident, CHS, in the restroom. A couple of girls, they both came up here and give testimony. There was a male, I want to be very clear about this. This was a male dressed as a biological male that was in the bathroom. After a meeting after that, we had assurances by your superintendent that measures have been taken to protect these children, that we didn't have to worry about this again. Correct? You remember the meeting? Everybody does. Well, guess what? It happened again today. Same restroom, same high school, same students. Now, it's been reported to the police. It's been reported to the office. It's been reported to your main office downtown. There's videotape evidence of this. So what you're looking at tonight, as far as making a decision on some things, I would tell you to hurry up and get something in place, because it's obvious that what we were promised and the protection of these children, it hasn't been anywhere near what we were told. And it's dangerous for the children. And, you know, you guys come to us with this levy money and wanting levy, and our children are unprotected. And I'm just going to throw a question out there. You think you're hurting for money now? Wait till one of these parents sues the school district for ineptness at leadership level. If it was my child, I already would have done it. This is going to end up being like West Virginia. You're going to have a child raped in the bathroom, and then what are you going to do? Oh, well, we tried. No, you're not trying. That's the problem. That's the reason it happened again today in the same school, same bathroom, same students. Now, Hanover Research. I know that's on the board for the night. I would encourage you board members to go to page 4 and look at the bottom of it. You know, there's an Idaho law that says there's no CRT allowed in the school system. I suggest you look in to see how much federal funding and public funding you're going to lose if somebody takes a look at this with words like inequity bias, systemic injustice, oppression. That sounds a lot like CRT to me. I just got that from Aaron Bernard a little bit ago. Otherwise, we wouldn't have known about it. So I would encourage this board to put something. You have the power. You have the power. You don't need the superintendent to do it. You have the power to put fail-safes in place tonight. I mean, I know you guys got a busy schedule. Everybody does. But when it comes to the safety of our children, if you can go to a bus garage and have a meeting with the drivers to discuss the levy, you can stay behind and have a little time to discuss
and
the
Mr.
safety
Price,
of our
that's
children.
3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Amber Sear and Bryn Johnson, you're next.
Amber Sear, Hayden. Good evening, trustees, Dr. Hawker, and citizens of Kootenai County. Here we are again, going on our third vote for this levy. The citizens of Kootenai County have spoken, have shared their concerns over and over, still with no real resolution, just fear tactics to change the minds of the citizens. I mean, because how else do we make citizens comply by using fear? Life is full of tough choices, and unfortunately you, as a board, and yourself as a superintendent, will have to make these choices due to not being able to balance a budget. These are the repercussions to bad decisions. Please understand that we as parents and citizens that have voted no, or that will vote no on this levy, do not want our students to go without. We do not want schools to be closed. We do not want educators to lose their jobs. Nobody wants these things to happen. All we want for is the school district to be held accountable for not balancing the budget and making things right. Right for our children and right for this community who trusted you to do right by us. I really hope that you take this third opportunity to correct the wrongs and meet this community halfway. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Bryn Johnson and Riley Yake, you're up next.
Good evening, and thank you to the distinguished Coeur d'Alene School Board. I've had the privilege of organizing some of my peers to come with me tonight to present, and I'm humbled by their presence. My name is Bryn Johnson, and I'm a graduating senior at Coeur d'Alene High School. School, athletics, and my community are all important to me. I will be graduating third in my class of 350 of my peers with a 4.49 grade point average. It is because of this district and everything it offers that gave me the confidence to apply to 15 prestigious colleges with high medical school placement rates. I was accepted into almost every school and offered sizable academic scholarships, collectively totaling over $1.1 million. I will continue my academic journey at Carroll College with a large academic scholarship, studying in their nationally ranked pre-medical program. It is my ultimate goal to become a cardiothoracic surgeon, a career I set my sights on in Kathy Schamberg's first grade class when she had us draw our futures. Through my time here in our school district, I've had the privilege of being taught by many amazing teachers. It is because of this district's strong math teachers that I was confident in taking my 3-hour AP Calculus exam just this morning, easily applying quotient rules, infinite limits, definite integrals, and more to the multiple choice and free response sections of the exam. My advanced English teachers equally prepared me so I could easily write for 2 hours straight during my recent AP Literature exam, intertwining literary devices and rhetorical analysis while conjuring up literary classics I have read in my academic career, comparing them to the AP prompt. My fascination with science started as a small child with studying medical books after my grandfather's open heart surgery and has blossomed in this district. At CHS, I have taken every advanced science course: physical science, physics, biology, and chemistry. By excelling in these, I have found my true calling. I was fortunate to play soccer all 4 years at CHS under Coach Andy Vredenberg, and because of this, I have received a sizable athletic scholarship to Carroll College as well. The continuance of my soccer career is due in large part to Coach Andy. I discovered I had a passion for giving back to my community while in this district. In the last year, I have spent over 400 hours specifically working with at-risk elementary age youth, and I'm currently donating my time at Bora Elementary. It is my hope that every single student within this Coeur d'Alene School District continues to have the same opportunities that I have been given. They deserve that. So as I confidently take steps into the next chapter of my life, I would like to take a moment to thank my mentors. Thank you, Kathy Schamberg, Kelly Ogle, Cheryl Rasmussen, Andrea Neary, Ginny Whiteside, Allie Robitaille, Sabrina Schuler, Carrie Carter, Tony Cox, Tina Roberts, Tony Perka, Tia Vesser, Jody Booth, Kathleen Severson, Tim Burnside, Tara Carr, Rachel Carnes, Colin Donovan, Royce Johnson, Eric Carnes, and Carrie Tapia. I would not be Bryn Johnson without you.
There you go. Thank you. I was hoping you'd get to the end of the list at 3 minutes, and you hit it right on. So, Riley Yake, and then Rand Warman, you're up after Riley.
Okay. Riley Yake, Coeur d'Alene. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Riley Yake, and I am currently a senior at Coeur d'Alene High School. Next month, I will be honored to be the salutatorian of the class of 2023, which means that I am second in my class of 350. I am proud to be attending this meeting today with an amazing group of peers that wonderfully represent the CHS student body due to their dedication to the community, strong work ethic, and willingness to stand up for what they believe in. This fall, I will be attending Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah. I'm planning on studying political science with a legal studies emphasis. I hope to work in state or federal government in the future. I would not be where I am today without the help of the amazing teachers and incredible programs of the Coeur d'Alene School District. Throughout my high school career, I have gotten involved with many of the sports and activities that CHS has to offer. Sports such as cross country have helped me improve my mental and physical strength, grit, and sportsmanship. Student council has helped me develop my leadership skills, create friendships within my school community, and become more organized than I was before. Model United Nations allowed me to choose a future career path and gave me the chance to make connections with students across the state. Business Professionals of America strengthened my public speaking skills and really helped me to develop a strong work ethic. If the levy happens to fail, funding for these programs will be greatly reduced, if not cut completely. That is devastating to me because once again, these activities have helped me become a woman that I am proud to be. Furthermore, funding for advanced placement classes will be reduced. Today, I found out that almost all of the AP classes that I took will contribute towards my general credits at BYU. This will reduce the time I spend down at college and the debt I will go into as I pursue my higher education. I am grateful for everything that I have learned because of my hardworking AP teachers and the preparation that they provided for my AP exams. I would not be as strong of a learner as I am today without these advanced opportunities. Finally, it is heartbreaking to me that if the levy fails, funding for school counselors, nurses, resource officers, and mental health services will be cut. As a student who has struggled severely with mental health throughout high school, it is extremely important to me that other students receive the mental health services that they need. This opportunity won't be available next year without this critical funding. Although the funding from the levy doesn't impact me directly, for the sake of the rising generation of the Coeur d'Alene School District, I hope that this money stays within our school community. I know that the passage of the levy is critical for the future of children within our district because it will shape them into people that they are proud to have become and will provide them with an opportunity to pursue prestigious higher education and rigorous careers in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Rand Warman and Lily Givens, you're on deck.
Hello. Sorry.
Tilt it up.
Okay. Good evening, Coeur d'Alene School Board and fellow citizens of Coeur d'Alene. My name is Rand Warman, and I live in Coeur d'Alene. I've been privileged to grow up going through the Coeur d'Alene School District, starting my journey at Dalton Elementary, then continuing to Canfield Middle School, and ending my journey next month at Coeur d'Alene High School. I am graduating top 10 in my class with a GPA of 4.39. I've yet to receive lower than an A- in any of my classes. And I will be continuing my journey at Cal Poly, studying physics and hoping to become an astronaut one day. I would just like to thank the Coeur d'Alene School District for providing me countless opportunities throughout my high school, middle school, and elementary career that have gotten me to where I am today. They have not taught me only many educational things, but they have taught me how to be persistent, dedicated, and how to have a passion for something and strive towards that goal. Over the years, I have grown. Over the years, I have helped strengthen my weaknesses through the help of the Coeur d'Alene School District, and many more. Many of my teachers are very educational or are very educated on the topics that they are teaching and have taught me far beyond what the curriculum requires. My sisters, who are now graduated from college, also grew up in the Coeur d'Alene School District, attending Lake City High School, and they graduated valedictorian and salutatorian, one attending Duke. And they have also shared their experiences with their school district, and all of them have been positive. They have presented to me that they cannot be where they are currently in life without learning many of the things that they did in the Coeur d'Alene School District. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Lily Givens and Lindsay Overturf is it right after.
Good evening, esteemed board members and community members. My name is Lily Givens, and I am a senior at Coeur d'Alene High School. Tonight, I'd like to emphasize the positive effects this school district and the opportunities it has afforded me have had on me throughout my life, and the importance of continuing to provide such resources. I have attended Coeur d'Alene Public Schools my entire academic career. In the 12 and a half years since I first began my education, I have participated in 12 school-sponsored activities, as well as several other school programs. While these activities have varied greatly in subject, one thing about them undoubtedly remains the same. I absolutely cannot imagine having grown up without them. I largely attribute the person I am today to the programs I've been involved in at school. Education is not simply valuable through the memorization of facts or the practiced ability to recite extensive pieces of literature from memory, but through the real-world application of academic curricula and the skills it fosters. The wide variety of activities I've been involved in growing up have taught me this. The one program in particular stands out. Many of the fondest school memories I have took place in my elementary school advanced learning math and reading class. This class was and still is taught by Miss Charlene Babb, who happens to be sitting just in front of me tonight. I cannot overstate the positive impact her class had on me. I wholeheartedly attribute my inclination and passion for my academics to her. My time in her class taught me not only to think critically about what I read, but to think creatively, even about subjects as analytical as math. But most of all, she taught me the value of challenging myself. The outlook on learning that I adopted in her class has largely been my motivation to pursue the over 24 advanced courses that I've completed since elementary school, and is highly attributable to the various academic honors I've received in recent years, including AP Scholar with Honor, Idaho Top Scholar, and Idaho Science and Aerospace Scholar. These sentiments also extend far beyond the classroom to the extensive variety of community service that I am presently involved in. As not only did her class teach me to always push myself to be the absolute best that I can be academically, but it also taught me to put in the utmost effort in helping those around me. In the past 2 years alone, I've completed approximately 100 hours of community service, ranging broadly in scope from peer tutoring to work with nonprofits like Growing the STEM and Safe Passage, largely because of the standards I was held to 7 years ago. And while I could spend hours recounting the many positive influences this district has had on me, the reality is that it is far from perfect. Not every student has as much good to say as me and my classmates here tonight. But a vote yes on the levy is not to say that our schools have no problems, or that our education system should be supported in every facet. It's a vote to say that incredible programs, like the one Ms. Babb teaches, should be advocated for, and that the problems that are present, whatever those may be, are worth investing in to fix.
And that's 3 minutes, Lily.
I have seen firsthand the good this district can do for students in the community at large, and I dearly hope that you all see that too, as today's youth are the creators of tomorrow's future, and we, as members of this community, have the responsibility to give them the resources to build it. Thank you.
Lindsay Overturf. And Kelly Ostler, you're next.
Good evening, Dr. Sean Hawker, esteemed board members, Ms. Southwick, and my fellow community members. My name is Lindsay Overturf, and I'm a senior at Coeur d'Alene High School. I have kind of a unique story. I have not been in the Coeur d'Alene School District my entire life. I actually joined the Coeur d'Alene School District when I was in 9th grade, where I had previously attended a K-12 private school. Having attended a different school and seeing the way in which a smaller school might function, I can very easily say that my experience with the Coeur d'Alene School District has been comparable, if not even better, with class sizes, teachers, my experiences overall in academics. I have had an amazing experience. There's just nothing like it that I can really even compare it to. $5 a month is how much the supplemental levy would cost the average taxpayer a month. You know, that's about as much as a Big Mac at McDonald's or 5 items at the dollar store. Well, more like 3 because, you know, inflation. But, you know, as an active member in the school district and as somebody who has really invested a lot academically, I can say very easily that every experience I have had has been invaluable, and I could not even imagine my life without it. Having been a student who wasn't here previously, I could have slipped between the cracks, been someone that wouldn't have necessarily been able to be invested in as much, or, you know, somebody that teachers wouldn't have necessarily paid attention to otherwise. And I can very thankfully say that that was not the case, and everything has been an absolutely wonderful experience. The biggest qualm with the supplemental levy is that I don't want to invest in a school district that doesn't reflect my values. I can very easily say that I would say that the Coeur d'Alene School District has wonderful values. The Coeur d'Alene School District, the Coeur d'Alene School District values community. I participated in DECA. I had the opportunity to compete in nationals, and I got to very, very well see the amount of community and the friendships that you can build in these, you know, elective activities that may not necessarily be there foundationally or funded by the state, but are just as important as any other academic activity that we participate in. I see that the school district values education above all else. My counselors and administrators have made it a priority to help me in my education journey, and I'm in the top 10 of my class along with everybody that's here with me tonight. And I get to attend my dream school next year at NYU Florence, where I will be able to eventually pursue a future career in law and hopefully government someday. I've seen that the school district values a difference in opinions, and I know that as a student, we are taught,
And that's 3 minutes if you want to wrap it up.
Yes, absolutely. To value people that have a difference in opinions. And I think sometimes adults can forget that, but I really do think it's important, and I really graciously admire everybody that has either come up to speak or will speak tonight. So thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Kelly Ostler, and then Matt Brower, you're up after Kelly.
Good evening, everyone. Is it on? I'm Kelly Ostler from Coeur d'Alene. I'm a special ed teacher at Dalton, and I have 2 kids in the district, an 8th grader and a 5th grader. And I spoke last month about if you were to come into an elementary school for a day, the things that you would see. And the 3 minutes went super fast, so I didn't finish. Where I left off was, you will see specialist classes, and that's elementary. For high school and middle school, it's our electives. For a lot of my students, academics is not their strength. Not all of them, but that's not their strength. And the specialist classes and the electives are where they really can sometimes shine the most. So that's an amazing thing. Our sports, our drama, our music, those things are awesome. All the things I mentioned last month and what I just mentioned, you're going to see the same things at our middle schools and our high schools too, at an age-appropriate level. Our schools are just absolutely filled to the brim with people who care about seeing kids grow and thrive. I can't speak for all towns and states. I've only taught here and in Lakeland, but I know firsthand how amazing the Coeur d'Alene schools are. Our educators and staff are for kids. We are not against kids. And not only are we for kids, but we are for all kids, capital A, capital L, capital L. All kids. Not a single child is excluded for any reason, regardless of any factor. And that's the beautiful thing to me. Every student is welcome, and we are committed to them all. Most of my students, as of late, in the last few years, are coming to us from other states. And after they're here for a while, I can't tell you how many comments I hear from parents about how outstanding our schools are. So that's a good testament. Our district and our schools, our district office and our schools are filled with amazing and caring administrators, staff, teachers who want to answer all of your questions that you might have, particularly regarding the levy. They have been and will continue to be transparent with you. Just reach out. I ask that you assume good intentions of those of us that have committed our adult lives to children. Assume good intentions. If you're unsure of something, go to one of us who can give you the answer or help you find the answer. As you know, the levy vote on May 16th has tremendous implications for our community. We've all seen the things that are on the chopping block, and losing those things will be devastating for all of us as a whole, but mostly our kids, and that's what matters most. This community has a strong history of supporting public education. It's part of the reason why people are flocking here. The beauty and so many other reasons, but our educational system is a big part of it too. It's time for all of us as a community to come together and show what matters to us and what we hold dear. And a strong educational system is truly the bedrock foundation of any strong community. I'm voting yes, I already did, because I get a daily front row seat to our amazing schools, and I know how phenomenal they are from the inside. I'm
That's 3
proud to
minutes.
teach in this district, very, very proud. I'm proud that I feel supported in this district, and I'm proud to have my kids educated here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Matt Bronner, and then Kristen Orange, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Matt Bronner. I live in Zone 3. I have kids in first and fourth grade, and I'll soon have another child in kindergarten in the district. I'm super thankful for everyone that works so hard to create an amazing environment for my kids to learn and grow in. As a lot of people have mentioned, there is an upcoming election with huge consequences for the district. So I'm just here to express support for the district administrative staff and all their families. I'm here to express support for district support staff, the custodians, librarians, food service staff, counselors, school resource officers, and teachers' aides, and all of their families. I'm here to express support for the district's arts, music, and athletics department staff and their families. I'm here to express support for the district's special education team and their families. I'm here to express support for the district teachers and their families, and I'm here to express support for the students of District 271 and their families. I'm here to express gratitude for all of the organizations, businesses, and community members that are stepping up and showing their support for the district and everyone who works so hard in such a challenging environment. When I look inward and feel deep appreciation for all these people, I think how neat it is that we have this opportunity to support them. It really is an act of kindness that we can give, and we can feel good about it when we commit to supporting them. This is this current generation and the future generations of Coeur d'Alene students. This is an act of civic duty, and I'm here to express support for the school district levy on the ballot next Tuesday. There were some earlier comments about how the school district is mismanaging its budget, and I think that is a mischaracterization. In the mid-2000s, the legislature passed bills that shifted a huge proportion of the budget need onto the tax district of school districts. So when the state is considering an operating budget for a school district, they're anticipating that tax district will raise a levy for those funds. So I think that's a mischaracterization. I think when people say, I want to vote no to punish the district for mishandling their budget, but I don't want to close these things, well, you know what they say about having cake and eating it. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristen Gorge, and then Kaylee Neal, you're up next.
Good evening, President Smith, school board members, Dr. Hawker, Ms. Southwick, fellow educators, and community members. My name is Kristen Gorge. I am the principal at Bryan Elementary, also a community member since I was born at KMC. So long time, lots of vested interest here. I'm here tonight because I think a lot of people here might know it's Teacher Appreciation Week. You all get to hear a lot of things from the community. You all get to hear a lot of things from the community. And tonight, I'm going to share a letter with you, and I'm hoping it can just serve as a good reminder of why we are all here. In it, you will hear things that would be a strong support for mental health services in the district. And in it, you will hear things that will remind us of why it's so important to have programs that will build on student strengths like art. But you will also hear why we are so privileged, and that is because we have an opportunity to be life changers in what we do. I say that to my teachers all the time, and I think because we don't always hear it, it's forgotten. This letter I'm sharing tonight was written about an event that occurred 14 years ago. This letter showed up last week, 2 weeks ago. So even though that we may not always know it, I think it's important to remember. So here we go. Okay. Dear Miss C, I don't know if you remember me. I was a student of yours in 4th grade. I'm about 23 years old, so I think it would have been 2009 that I was in your class. I wanted to reach out and tell you how much of an impact you had on me as a child. My home life was hard, and you were one of the only adults I ever trusted and truly believed cared for me. You would sit with me during recess, and you would talk my feelings through with me. At one point, I talked to you about wanting to die. You took me to Miss Semko, school counselor, and the two of you spent a lot of time with me. I was only 10 years old, but you spent the time to convince me of how much I was worth. One of the biggest things I remember is how the two of you never looked at me differently after that conversation. I have thought a lot about you over the years and how much your words and actions have changed me. Being completely honest, I don't think I'd still be alive without your kindness in those days. So thank you for that. Really and truly, thank you for protecting me and caring when no one else did. My home life got worse. I moved out when I was 14. I grew up quick, and I always stayed out of trouble. Now I work in a law office, in school to become a paralegal, and I have a very successful career in the art community with my paintings.
And go ahead and wrap up.
Okay. Overall, I grew up all right despite obstacles in my way because I had people who always believed in me. Even though we didn't stay in touch, I still held on to your kindness and our conversations. I'm sending this now so that you know the impact you have on the world.
And thank you.
And the impact you had on mine. Thank you.
Thank you. Kaylee Neal. And then Kathleen Corbeil. And Eileen will be up next.
My name's Kaylee. Testing. My name's Kaylee. I'm 14. When I was in public school, I was in ELA classes and I was mistreated and not taught at my grade level. That happened because of that. This happens to many students in the Coeur d'Alene School District. They also segregate us for our disability. I was also restrained in an inappropriate way because I was having a panic attack due to asthma. They decided to throw me in the COVID room to calm me down. They screamed at me if I sat up to stretch my legs. Your school psychologically abused us so when we are not abused, you can get your yearly fat check when you stop brainwashing us, when we are heard by the school board, and we are not silenced just for the kids. Furthermore, I am glad that my parents pulled me out of your public school, aka public-funded brainwashing camp.
Thank you, Kaylee. Kathleen Corbeil and Eileen Blau. Thank you. And Luke Neary will be next.
Hi, my name's Eileen Blau, and I am from Coeur d'Alene, and I am the principal of Winton Elementary School.
And my name is Kathleen Corbeil, and I am from Hayden, and I am the assistant principal at Winton. I have attended Coeur d'Alene schools. My children attend Coeur d'Alene schools, and now I get to work for the Coeur d'Alene School District, so thank you for that. Like Kristen said, it is Teacher Appreciation Week, and our teachers have been working so hard, and the stress of the last 2 months has put on even more of a strain other than just regular spring fever. And so we have written a letter in support of our teachers. On behalf of our teachers, we adore our students. We appreciate our families. We come to school every day because we want to make a difference in the lives of our children. Teaching is what we choose to do. We wouldn't have it any other way. These are just a few of the sentiments of our teachers at Winton Elementary. Our staff are some of the most committed and caring professionals, but they are tired tired of wondering if they have a job every 2 years, tired of hearing how they aren't good enough and how they are indoctrinating children. Our teachers do not deserve this vitriol. Our teachers teach our students to read, to be mathematicians and writers. They teach children to think critically, collaborate with their peers, and to persevere when things get hard. And for many students, life is hard. They teach our students empathy, kindness, and how to have appropriate discourse. They show up every day to care for and educate children that are not their own. They give up weeknights, weekends, and summers with their families in order to prepare their classrooms and plan engaging and meaningful lessons, all with smiles on their faces. They are doing what they love, what they have been called to do. As building leaders, it is our responsibility to advocate for our students, our staff, and our families. Therefore, we are urging those with voting power to please vote yes for this second time in May. Our students and teachers deserve a yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Luke Neary.
You guys hear me? Hello?
There we go.
Okay. My name is Luke Neary, and I'm from Coeur d'Alene. Good evening, esteemed board members, Dr. Hawker, valued community members. I thank you all for taking the time to listen to me this evening. I'm here tonight for the same reason as you. I care about my education. I'm currently a sophomore at Lake City High School. I am a devoted student council member and a dedicated athlete. I'm involved in several activities, including band, orchestra, track, skeet and trap club, and National Honor Society. I have seen and met many people in my 12 years of being a student in the CDA school district. My mom is a 5th grade teacher at Skyway. My dad is an architect who served on the Excel Foundation board for 3 years. My stepmom was the former vice principal for Hayden Meadows Elementary, and my stepdad is a varsity baseball coach at Coeur d'Alene High School. Clearly, public school is a very important part of my life and the life of those around me. I have seen how it can impact lives and help people out of hard times by giving them a purpose. No matter where you come from, what your family situation is, or what kind of lifestyle you live, public school can open your eyes up to opportunities you never thought possible. I came from a middle-class family, so I never really had to endure some of those situations. But I have met several people who have said that public school has changed their lives for the better. Whether it's through sports, fine arts, band and choir, clubs, or even just a fun elective class, public school can provide these experiences. I recently sat down and personally researched the approximate number of students that would be directly affected by cutting their ability to participate in sports and activities. Between our two high schools, there are over 1,800 student athletes, 350 music students, 450 performing arts students, and over 1,000 club members, and that's not even counting the middle school participation. These numbers would represent the amount of students that would be directly affected by the programs being cut. Without these programs, most of these students would come to school every day, sit down, learn for 6 hours, and not have any motivation before or after school to pursue that which they are passionate about. I am one of these students. I walk amongst these students every day. I can't imagine not having that outlet for team building, social interaction, and overall betterment as I navigate the difficult waters of high school. So I ask, any of you listening to me talk today, to please open and find the kindness in your hearts to support the continuation of these programs. Please vote yes. These students are our future. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Linda Parkin.
Can you hear me? Okay. Good evening, Dr. Hawker, esteemed board and community members. My name is Linda Parkin, and I am proud to call myself a teacher in the Coeur d'Alene School District. I have taught at Coeur d'Alene High School for the past 16 years. I am an English teacher, and tonight, along with my fellow English teachers who teach seniors, we wanted to share some comments with you from community members that we have received from senior project evaluations. This is the class of 2023 is the same class that shut down in 2020 as freshmen. So they have not had a normal experience through high school. But as a team, as a PLC, we have discussed how proud we are of these young people, and these comments are they are worth sharing with the community. So I will just read them out as long as the time I have. All right. Ashlyn was very attentive and documented our discussions thoroughly. She asked very pertinent questions, and when we performed actual functions required to be successful, she was extremely motivated, energetic, and helpful. When we went to visit with potential clients, she dressed professionally and was extremely polite and approachable. I enjoyed mentoring her, and I feel that she will be successful in a real estate career or any other endeavor she chooses to pursue. Luke was a quick study, great with customers, motivated, willing to learn new things. Emma has a terrific attitude and is respectful to both animals and humans, punctual, thoughtful, conscientious, and communicative. I enjoyed having her work with my horse as part of her senior project. Cooper was an amazing young man, and I believe he will go far. I like Ivy. She is a great senior example for Coeur d'Alene High School. Lana was a pleasure to work with and have at the bakery. She is truly gifted in this environment. I would love to see her choose this as her field. Katie was wonderful to have observe in our office. She was friendly with all staff and patients. Taya displayed a very professional learning ethic. She asked very thoughtful questions and took note of answers. She met senior staff with ISP and showed them courtesy and respect. Carter has excelled at this project. He has gone above and beyond all expectations, and I see a bright future for him in this area of study. Kelly is a humble individual who gets along well with her peers and the entire clinical team.
And that's 3 minutes. Sorry, I got distracted.
Thank you, and we are so proud of the class of 2023. They are resilient and they are prepared.
Thank you. Trustees, that's 45 minutes. We've got 11 more people signed up. There is a variety of things still that people would like to speak on. Where are we at? Any other thoughts or?
I appreciate everyone coming out. My concern is our last meeting got very, very long and not very effective at the end when we had some pretty important business. And so I am concerned about the length of public comment that it is becoming when we have other opportunities to give comment in writing, which I actually think is more effective for me, at least, because it gives me opportunity to respond and ask questions. So I'll do whatever the board desires, but I am concerned about 11 more is another 35 minutes at least.
30 minutes. Thoughts? I mean, we can take a vote, but
I'm wondering if we have, I know you said we have some different topics, if we have some that are the same, maybe one person could come up. I mean, all your comments are wonderful, but we are getting a lot that are similar. Maybe combine some of those? Just a thought.
All right. Heather? Any other thoughts?
I'm just concerned about the message we're sending to the community if we do cut them off at this time without hearing all of their voices tonight.
Okay. Maybe what if I gave 2 minutes? Can we do 2 minutes? And we'll see. Okay. All right. Okay, we're gonna move forward. And if you have a comment already, on the levy or something that we've already heard from, especially tonight, maybe we could pass on that time to give. Yeah. What's that?
Export action to extend it.
To extend it. Okay. So is there a motion to extend?
I motion to extend public comment time, but the comments to be limited to 2 minutes for the remainder of the time.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Nay. So, is that recorded? Okay, thank you. Jeanette Lassiter.
Good evening. Is that on? Testing. Good evening, Chair Smith, trustees, Dr. Hawker, and the community. My name is Jeanette Laster. I'm the Human Rights Education Institute Executive Director. I'd like to speak tonight to the concerns regarding rescinding the transgender guidelines for administrator reference. I understand your desire to approve Section 3000, Code 3081, and to provide some positive solutions to serve all of our students. And I recognize that there are sections of the guidelines that may be impacted. However, this document also has extremely important references to privacy, harassment, and record keeping that are elements that need to be consistent from school campus to school campus. And so it is true that there are other policies that overlap some of these areas. However, because of the at-risk nature of this particular group and population, additional support resources and guidance for teachers and counselors and safety staff is helpful in addressing situations that impact school day educational relationships, learning, and rights during these times. This helps all students and their interactions day to day. I've already spoken numerous times about and given data about the higher levels of mortality within this group and the experiencing of greater harassment and physical violence. Further isolating and separating these students is not the solution. And so I urge you to consider that we look at the guidelines as a document that's not policy and that can be amended. And I would like you to consider keeping those parts of the guidelines intact that are still relevant and that have nothing to do with the policy. I think you can still pass the policy, or it's my understanding that you can still pass the policy without removing those other sections and then maybe amending the guidelines.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Teresa Borenpaul. And Kathy Jones, you're up next.
Good evening, Dr. Hawker, board members, Ms. Southwick. My name is Dr. Teresa Borenpaul, and I live over in Post Falls, but I'm coming today to talk to you about something that unites all of our communities, which is K-Tech. K-Tech, of course, is the Kootenai Technical Education Campus, which is located on the Rathdrum Prairie. And as many of you know, the funding for K-Tech comes from the levies. So in Post Falls, we passed our levy back in March, and we pay 35% of K-Tech's operations. Coeur d'Alene pays 51% because of the amount of students, and Lakeland pays 14%. So even though Post Falls passed our levy in order to support K-Tech, if this levy doesn't pass, we lose technical education county-wide, not just in Post Falls, but in Coeur d'Alene as well as Lakeland. And I just want to stress, it's so important to think of levies as ultimate local control. You know, the state gives us a package, and it is a bare bones package to pay teachers at $49,000 a year for their entire package, whether it's a first year teacher or a 20th year teacher. And then they give us $10.79 per hour for our staff. And that's everybody from our paraprofessionals to our CFO. And so when we take that package, we can only buy a certain amount. But when we vote to engage in local control and say, technical education is a value of ours, then we get to reflect in our education system what our community believes. At K-Tech, they teach welding, they teach fabrication, they teach automotive and diesel technology. We certify nursing assistants. There's over 1,000 jobs right now available to skilled workers, according to the Idaho Department of Labor in Kootenai County alone. And that can be our awesome high school graduates in Post Falls, in Lakeland, and in Coeur d'Alene. Please, 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 don't let Post Falls lose technical education. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy Jones, and then Bill Green, you're up next.
Good evening, Dr. Hawker and esteemed board, and thank you so much for giving us a chance to give public comment. I'm going to speak really fast. I am a recently retired elementary teacher who spent 35 years educating children in the Coeur d'Alene School District, and I wanted to talk about the curriculum adoption real quick. A team of brilliant educators in CDA was charged with the task of finding a language arts curriculum to replace the units of study by Lucy Calkins. Reading is based on 5 components: phonological awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. For a program to work, all 5 components must be strong with a sound scope and sequence and must scaffold to build success for all students. The team recommended Benchmark Advance, which is the newest benchmark curriculum. I analyzed every detail with regards to reading acquisition, rigor, and accountability. I deeply looked into the dyslexic reading disability component. The program has all of it. The 5 components of reading run cohesively throughout the grade levels. The rigor in each component matches learners at all levels. The writing component is strong. Foundational writing is at the forefront, and higher level writing is taught with intentionality and purpose. The program has a remediation component and an advanced learner component. The program, in my opinion, does not promote critical race theory. After my close analysis of the program, the acronym CRT in this program refers to cognitive retroactive transfer, which refers to the transfer of learning between languages. A good program has to have this. In conclusion, the curriculum is tightly written for all learners and very teacher-friendly. The scope and sequence for acquisition in all areas of language arts is seamless. The use of the multimodal approaches to lesson delivery is present, and it lends itself to the methods that are taught in Orton Gillingham, Lips and Letters. The state of Idaho published a dyslexia handbook that has a guidance and requirement for all teachers with regards to dyslexia. The expectation is these requirements must be in place next year. The benchmark curriculum provides the structure for teachers to meet all expectations within the Idaho handbook. To me, this is just a bonus because the curriculum, first and foremost, is good for all young learners. I applaud the district's work to make this important change towards a program that addresses all components of reading, and I highly recommend and support this decision, and I would love to talk to anyone with further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Green and Christina Bannister. You're after Bill.
Thank you to you all. I always want to advocate for a raise for you guys since you're now putting in not only extra hours, but extra hours. So probably a quadruple, triple jump on your pay would work. But thanks so much for allowing us to speak, and I want to speak in general in high support for the levy. And I'm a little bit sad that the students showed up because I wanted to really give them a shout out. I was so impressed with their expression of gratitude and their huge achievement and accomplishment that they've done. And I want to say that in the Coeur d'Alene School District, I've seen that there are so many levels that are available to kids, not just academics, as we've heard eloquently from the seniors and the sophomore, but also in K-Tech and in trades. I mean, I know kids who didn't like that school that much, but they were really good at something else at K-Tech, got out of high school, got a job right away, got their own company car, and are on call for fixing big equipment when that's needed. As I'm just so impressed with the variety of programs that are available to the kids here in Coeur d'Alene. I just have a couple suggestions about how to get some more votes, possibly. If the board were to actually say publicly that we don't want and don't allow books that look like pornography in libraries, and if you know of any, tell us about it, and we're going to work on correcting that. That's just one thing, because people in the community talk about things they worry about. One of them is that. Another one is, if you were to also say, if there are kids who express some sort of confusion about gender and teachers find out about it, then the proper thing to do is refer them to their parents, to their family, so that that's where the actual help can come in sorting out any kind of confusion, if there is any. And then I've also heard that there's concerns about assessments, so that there's scores over here and money over there, and they never seem to have a relationship. All the money's going up, 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 scores staying the same. I just want to comment that if you look at it statistically, that's a correlation. It's not a causality between money and scores.
And that's time, Mr. Green.
Okay.
Thank you.
So much for my lesson in statistics.
We welcome your comments, Mr. Green. Thank you. Christina Bannister, and then Lily Loken is up after.
Can you hear me? There you go. Hi, my name is Christina Bannister. I've lived in Coeur d'Alene since 1998. I have two girls that went to Coeur d'Alene and graduated from the high school. They had a lot of challenges and issues through the school years and felt that their issues have never been heard or felt like that they're always kind of thrown on the back burner. I'm here today to discuss the concern of the gender bathroom issue. I have never thought that there would be a day that I'd have to come and explain why the opposite sex or trans being in the wrong bathrooms. First, I want to make it clear I could care less about anybody's sexual orientation. What you are is your guys' own personal business. Where it's crossing the line is when you have girls in the bathroom and the locker room is feeling unsafe. I don't understand how anyone can identify as a girl and I'm sorry, but anybody can identify as a girl, and you just don't know for sure if that's, what they're identifying as that day. I don't understand is when we have girls in the locker rooms not feeling safe. I don't understand how anyone can identify a girl's bathroom or locker room with all the craziness going on in the world, and any disturbing individual can identify as a woman and sexually be assaulted or harassed in a female's bathroom. I don't think girls in a locker room would feel comfortable dressing or undressing in front of males. I don't think girls are going to be comfortable having males undressing in front of them in the bathrooms or in the locker rooms. We do not know what is going on in a person's head if it is truly identifying as a male or a female. It is too risky putting our kids' safety at risk with a small percentage of students that are trans. I don't understand why we cannot use the nurses' bathrooms, why the majority have to uproot and change for such a small percentage. We should be able to accommodate or come up with a better solution for this small percentage. If the school district wants to pass levies, you really need to deal with the deep-seated issues and listen to the parents on both sides. But not
if you want to wrap
side.
up, please.
I think we need to start with some of the gentleman said, we're not here it's not about the money. It's not the $77 a year. It's about some of the choices that you guys are making. And some of these concerns really need to be addressed. And people are just afraid. There's good teachers. And I'm proud to see all these students that are doing this. But we really need to deal with the deep-seated issues if you really want people to pass these levies.
Thank you. Is it Lily Loken? And then Louis Swingrover is up next.
Sorry, I'm a bit short for this. Tap. Okay. I'm Lily. I'm a junior at Coeur d'Alene High School, and there's so much to talk about, but I very much don't have the time. As someone who is a part of a lot of the groups that are considered minority, this sounds selfish, but I'm a bit upset with the single-mindedness of the people around us, and I just would like, I'm sure the board, based off of reactions of comments, is in support of other people's rights. I just feel like maybe I could address the community in the sense of the male that was in the women's bathroom was not a male. Was a close friend of mine who has been in extreme danger since this has been said. Friends of mine have been kicked out of the women's restroom, even though they are biologically female because they don't look the part. I have been threatened in women's restrooms, even though I am a female, and I just simply don't understand how people think it's okay to assume something about somebody else and then try and just because there's less of us doesn't mean that we are less of people. And I still think that we should get the same rights as everyone else. We're not asking to be put on a podium. The nurses' office bathrooms, there's one bathroom stall. There's one stall, and there are too many of us to be using that. It's on one end of the school, and that is the only bathroom that many of my friends feel safe with. The male that was in the women's restroom, she probably used the females because there's one stall in the nurses, and she has been using the nurses' bathroom because she's afraid for her safety.
And that's 2 minutes, Lily.
And I
if you want
just
to wrap up.
would like everyone to please consider the perspectives of the students that are in these minority groups instead of listening to the louder. Just consider the quiet, maybe.
Thank you. Louis Swingrover and Kate LaPonce.
Thank you, Chair Smith. Since you mispronounced my name last time, I am going to take my time and not cede it, even though I am going to speak about the levy. Sorry, not sorry. Husband, father, taxpayer. We actually have 4 kids in the district. And to you, the stewards of this district, I want to express my eternal gratitude for the multifaceted support, genuine interpersonal care, and cultivation of free and independent thought that Coeur d'Alene Public Schools has provided. You have taught our 4 children the doctrines of arithmetic and critical thinking. I possess no artifact and could deliver no praise that would be commensurate with what you've already given my family. Instrumental goods are those that are valuable primarily as means to achieving other desired outcomes, while ultimate goods possess intrinsic value, being valuable for their own sake. The distinction between these 2 types of goods lies in their purpose and the role they play in the pursuit of well-being and satisfaction. Money is an instrumental good because its primary function is to serve as a medium of exchange, a unit of account, and a store of value. It enables individuals to acquire goods and services, save for future needs, measure the economic worth of items, etc. Money is valuable not for its inherent qualities, but rather for its capacity to facilitate transactions and satisfy human needs and desires indirectly. In contrast, ultimate or intrinsic goods are valued for their inherent qualities and their direct contribution to well-being and satisfaction. Some examples commonly given are happiness, love, and knowledge, which are considered valuable in themselves rather than for their ability to achieve other goals. Our founding fathers recognized the intrinsic value of public education for the success and longevity of the Republic. Thomas Jefferson, I know of no safe depository of the ultimate powers of society but the people themselves. If we think them not enlightened enough to exercise their control with wholesome discretion, the remedy is not to take it from them, but to inform their discretion by education. John Adams, the whole people must take upon themselves the education of the whole people and be willing to bear the expenses of it. There should not be a district of 1 square mile without a school in it, not founded by a charitable
And if you'd
individual,
like to
but
wrap up,
maintained at the
please.
public expense of the people themselves, etc., etc. Much more besides. Let us exchange money for public education. I love you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Kate LaPonce. All right. Henry Lucero.
My name's Henry Lucero, and I've been in Coeur d'Alene for about 22 years now, and I've had my children through the school district. I don't want people to misunderstand. I do support all the schools, all the teachers, and all those support staff that's at. But I have a number of concerns. This levy that's going through has no term limits on it. And the result is there's a lot of senior people with fixed incomes that don't have the necessary resources to include the extra taxes that are going to be put onto them in their houses. There have been so many new houses built in the Coeur d'Alene area, I don't see why there isn't more revenue than what is anticipated coming in. Also, I have a number of proposals. Proposals is that the school boards have term limits of 6 years each, and then so that we can get fresh blood into the school board as time goes on. The other things that go on is the fact that money that has been spent for the campaign of the extra revenue for the district, I'm glad that the governor passed a law saying that this can only happen 2 times a year instead of whenever the school district feels like they can do this. How much have we spent so far on 3 attempts to get the vote to yes? As far as I can tell, it's $275,000 that could have been spent towards teachers, school activities, and different things that are necessary in the school. We can't continue to spend money frivolously. I think that we should have an outside audit support that comes out of state, that's not connected with Coeur d'Alene, to audit the school district on a yearly basis, if not twice a year. Also, there are many things that need to be done to provide for the schools, and the money needs to be spent wisely. I had one more thought, but I can't think of what it is, so it must have not been that important. But I do
That's about
support
2
the
minutes.
schools. I do support the schools, the teachers, and the school board, but I want them to be more frugal in their thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lucero. And we do have term limits. I just want to offer that up, and that this levy will only be for 2 years. So thank you for your time, and thank you for coming. Jeremy DeChano.
DeShane.
DeShane, sorry, my apologies.
All right, sorry, 2 minutes. Jeremy DeShane, Coeur d'Alene. So 2 levy options have gone through, 2 have been rejected. The community has kind of spoken and how we've perceived that. We ultimately have come to this board. I know I have, I know others have, asking for this board to, and especially the administration, to consider the equity framework, the social emotional learning, basically the continued cultural Marxism that seems to make its way into our education system. We've been very deliberate, and yet we've gotten really no response from pretty much any real fundamental response. Let's put it that way. It's disappointing. So when a levy like this comes around and we're being asked to continue to fund the education system, there's been no compromise by this board, by this education system. There's been no middle ground. There's been no one getting out in front of that, trying to address the community with the concerns that have been brought forward over and over again. To say that it's frustrating is to do it a disservice. I spent 2 years speaking to this board on and off, trying to ask for that consideration to be made, as well as many others have, and there's just been no traction whatsoever. On the recent meeting, Ms. Anderson and Bjerke both presented well-written, well thought out ideas on how this board can actually try to retract some of its spending. And the other 3, Smith, Morse Row, and Tembrick, your only response to that, the only thing that you brought to that discussion was that you felt that you can't do something. So that means that we have to do something, and all that something turned into was, let's spend $25 million yet again. There was really no adjustments on your end. There was no compromise. Again, those 2 brought something worthwhile to the table. And
that's 2 minutes if you want to.
Okay.
Bring your thoughts to
I guess,
close.
yeah, unfortunately, I can't really keep going. There's too much here. But the leadership should step out in front of these issues between the bathroom, between the libraries, between the indoctrination that we've continued to bring up to this board. It just gets blown aside. And we deserve better than that. And this levy and telling no is the community's way of responding to that lack of response. So please consider what we're trying to tell you, and please consider it for the children that you're educating with these systems. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And last, Dakota Andrews.
Mic check. Thank you. I would just like to say that I'm very grateful for this opportunity to communicate with not only my community, but this board. In 2018, I graduated at Kootenai Bridge Academy. I'm very grateful for that program as being a student at Lake City High School. It just wasn't meant for me, and I'm glad that I found another place to grow as a student and thrive. I wanted to mention that I support this levy. I think that for the entirety of my education, whether that's 6th grade all the way to college, our school system has struggled with mental health. whether or not it's bullies who bully children who are trans, whether or not it's people who pretend to be trans and infiltrate bathrooms and take advantage of other students. It's a mental health issue. Hurt children hurt other children, and it's our responsibility to fund mental health programs so no one continues to get hurt. And it's important to make space for different kinds of people who, quite frankly, have existed for millennia across many cultures, and to erase that, I think, is an injustice. To add to support for the funding, I went most of my educational life here not knowing that I'm autistic. I actually got diagnosed last year at the age of 22, and I wonder how many kids out there who are left behind because they just kind of slipped through and they didn't know that they needed the extra help because there wasn't people around to notice certain things, to put people in the right places, to make sure that they get what they need. That is all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for your public comment. If there's additional comments, feel free please to submit them to the clerk, and we will read those and take them into consideration. we are gonna. I can do. Okay, you can go and.
5 minutes.
Okay. You're gonna wait till he comes back. All right. Okay, we'll take turns. All right, we will. Chair good? Okay. Here we go. All right. Dr. Hawker is going to next up. All right. We'll go ahead and should we take 5 minutes? We're going to pause for 5 minutes and everyone.
come back together and work our way through the next part of our meeting. Dr. Hawker.
Thanks, Chair Smith and trustees. Just real quick on superintendent's report, want to jump to, I don't really have any specific comments for item A, but item B, we just wanted to have Katie Grotman give us a brief update on where we're at in regards to our ELA curriculum adoption and the schedule. Katie?
And science, yes.
And science, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Smith, Superintendent Hawker, esteemed trustees, and Clerk Southwick. I just wanted to update that we extended our review timeline at the libraries for another 2 weeks. Rather than ending on May 1st, as initially planned, we extended through May 15th to ensure that we had the full 30-day review period instead of from meeting to meeting. There was a little bit of discrepancy between policy and procedure, so we wanted to err on the side of making sure that we provided full transparency and opportunity for people to come in and review. I also want to thank very much publicly our public libraries for hosting these resources. They see it as contributing to the public good, and so I'm very grateful for the time and space that they have given to us in order to do that. And then I'm asking that we please be able to bring the vote before you on May 17th once the review has been able to be completed by the public and after the levy, so that we'll know the results of the levy about whether or not we should even move forward with considering an adoption, and when a full board is able to be seated as well.
Terrific. Any questions? All right.
I might be confused. I thought we were doing that at the workshop.
We were, but now everyone can be at the 17th, and so we're gonna.
Did I miss that? Because someone can't be. Someone's
the
going to
other
miss the 22nd.
things, and so it matches better with if we move forward or not, just timeline on stuff. So we've moved it to the 17th.
So the 17th is going to be longer then.
Potentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So just depends.
Thank you.
And that's only the start. There's a number of other meetings coming up. All right, let's go to our consent agenda.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, consent agenda. There's board additional information for contracted services, discipline, and monthly financials. Is there any questions on any of those items for staff? All right, hearing none, then let's move on to our action items. First action item for this evening is the second reading of policy 3081, school restroom and changing facilities access. Dr. Hawker.
Yes, thanks, Chair Smith and trustees. Before you can see we've attached the public comments that you've received. That policy proposal has been out for public comment. We've attached all of those comments as well. And then specifically attached the policy that you've been working on for a little while that very closely, well, it does specifically align with new state law that will also go into effect July 1. I'll pause there and see if anybody has any questions or anything in regards to that proposal to approve that policy.
We did receive a number of public comments covering all sorts of different topics and perspectives within that policy.
I'd say overall I was pleased with the amount of comments and kind of the breadth of them. We had a lot of people say a lot of things, and I appreciated that. I also appreciated Ms. Green's comments and then Ms. Logan's comments tonight about kind of access to those single stall restrooms. And I think we recognize this, but I think moving forward, we need to prioritize creating greater access, particularly at the two comprehensive high schools, of those single stall restrooms, because I think we're going to see the use of those continue to grow potentially. So
I think the SAG student comments, SAG student comments also spoke to that, just the concern about limit. And so I want to call that out again, specifically that they took time to make a comment about general access in the bathrooms. So
I would be happy to make a motion to approve policy 3081, the school restroom and changing facility access and overnight lodging policy as presented.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
I just want to second what Trustee Morrisor said. I would like to see us prioritize some more access so that there's not just one available on one side of the school. You know, I'm sensitive to that concern. So
Yeah.
Yeah, Chair Smith and trustees, our plan will be, assuming that you move forward with approval of this policy, we will go right to work to put together our administrative guidelines and steps and procedures to implement this policy. And we need to study that, and we need to get back and find out, exactly what is that avenue. We've now heard from SAG. We've also heard from students. We need to come up with a solution there, and I don't have that off the top of my head today. It may require some remodeling. It may require some redesignation of specific stalls so that we can meet that need. But we'll take a look at that, and I'll bring that information back to you as soon as possible.
All in favor then?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. We're on to rescinding 2014, the transgender guidelines. Dr. Hawker, would you like to speak to this?
I would, thank you. And I do want to just recognize that I appreciate the comments today that we heard from multiple presenters, and specifically Ms. Lassiter. This administrative guideline was adopted in 2014, and as I had shared out previously, until a little while ago, we didn't even know of its existence. And that is because we operate with administrative guidelines all the time on all kinds of things, with constant counsel, with legal, with of course, our attorney and all of that. And we absolutely are committed to make sure that every student, all students, are safe in our schools. This specific guideline right here, as I've gone through the guideline, I can't find anything in the guideline that was formally adopted in 2014 that we would need to remain in that guideline and keep that guideline for that sake. We've addressed many of the items that were called out specifically in this guideline. You've already addressed that over the last year or so in some various different policies, and even now tonight with some specific restroom conversations. And I greatly appreciate your conversation to look into figuring out, what can we do to increase our single stall usage and avenues like that. So based on all of that, all of the other rules and policies that we already have in place, we believe that we just don't need to keep this specific guideline. It was just a guideline, not a policy that was adopted many years ago. We're operating under more current guidelines today. Anyway, so it's just not needed. So our recommendation was just to formally resend it.
All right, thank you. Is there any motion or further discussion?
Dr. Hawker, I think in general, I agree with you that most of this is covered in policy. I just wonder as we move forward, our policy manual is big and thick and cumbersome, and it's a little easier than it used to be because you can go in there and you can do word search and that sort of thing to find certain things. But in a number of states, I think Idaho is one of them, there was this kind of parents' rights legislation that was out there, and I don't believe it passed in Idaho, or it never made it through. But I just wonder, kind of the idea behind it was a simplified document. It did pass, yes, okay.
It did.
But the one that says you have to post all the policies a certain way, or like a single piece of paper or something?
We learned
Okay,
about it at law.
perfect. Then never mind. I was going to suggest that we do something along that lines, that it's kind of a guiding document. Where do I find policies about harassment and bullying? And, it calls out those specific policies. So
And we could make ours a little easier to navigate.
Right.
I find it, like you said, cumbersome.
Right.
There's got to be an easier way.
it's a lot of policies, right?
It's a lot of policies.
So, all right. I take back my comment.
Well, yeah, I guess I wasn't at Ed Law, so can you share with me I don't know what the single page we're talking about is.
I don't recall, but I don't recall the exact definition, but the new parents' rights legislation, statute, law that goes into effect July 1st is quite lengthy, and we probably should do our due diligence and have a workshop on going through and making sure that we're following all that. There's a lot of things in there.
I think that's probably that, from my understanding from being there too. I think ISB is working on some work that we could take to really put that forth. And so maybe as soon as we get that recommendation from them, that'll naturally kind of come up and be part of our work. So once we get that back from them.
Which I assume they're trying to get done by the summer.
Before
by the
July
end of
1st.
summer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
All right. Any additional questions or discussion?
I'll make a motion to rescind the transgender guidelines that were approved on July 7th, 2014.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you. Let's move on to the temporary waiver of policy 2530 and Dr. Nelson.
Good evening, Chair Smith, Superintendent Hawker, and members of the board. Happy Teacher Appreciation Week as well. Again, tonight in your package, you're going to find a memorandum. That memorandum is from Dr. Hawker, Mrs. Grotman, and myself regarding titles in our physical and online libraries. While our current board policies guide the variety and the appropriateness of books and instructional materials, we continue to receive complaints and see an increase in challenges toward those titles. Specifically, one district patron has identified a review of 13 titles. We received a recommendation from a representative of the Idaho Association of School Administrators who recognized a list of 25 titles. And we also recently reviewed the American Libraries Association, who identified some additional titles. So there's about 46 potential titles. Not all of them are on our shelves. Not all of them may be objectionable. However, we currently have a team of 14 who have volunteered to be able to read titles as these objections come forward. And as you could probably imagine, with a total of about 46, that would definitely take quite a bit of time even for that group to be able to complete. So we do have a request for temporary rule in your packet today. So to ensure the compliance with policy and accelerate that process, we'd like to request a temporary rule that any of those 46 texts be temporarily held, requiring a parent or guardian permission should a student want to check out one of these books from their library. That would allow us to hopefully accelerate a process to review these based on the current criteria that we have in policy. And also applying this practice to, that's House Bill 163, which is the parental rights bill, which will become law in July. This will also require additional transparency to parents and guardians about what a child has checked out. So as of July, anytime a book is checked out from our libraries, parents and guardians will be able to receive an immediate text or email from our library saying, your son or daughter has checked out this book. We're also working through our electronic library for a similar practice. But at this time, that is our request for temporary rule to hopefully make sure that the materials that we have, again, provide that variety and appropriateness that our policy demands. At this time, I would look forward to any questions or comments that you have.
Just to clarify, you said parents will be notified of all books?
Correct.
Okay. And
so we use an online tool called Destiny that controls both our libraries and our textbook checkouts. So anytime a student receives a book or a textbook, a notification will be sent out to the parent or guardian through Destiny.
Okay, and this team of 14 that's reviewing, I think our definitions are very kind of not super structured. Are you giving them perhaps a little more structure, maybe educational suitability or anything? Obviously, we don't want anything vulgar in our libraries, so something a little more specific.
Our policy, as you said, does not dictate that. We review, as part of our work, we review existing policy. We also have a book, a feedback form that is filled out by the parent or guardian so we can understand that lens that the parent or guardian is looking at in their complaint. And we also make sure that we look at the appropriateness and the variety within our own policies and try to find that recommendation. But again, for us to be able to follow our policy along the way is going to take quite a bit of time if we are duly going to provide the equity toward these 46 titles.
So this is a request for a temporary waiver.
Correct.
The effect of which is removing whatever of these 46 titles.
The text
that
would
we
not be
have.
removed. They would require a parent or guardian
Okay.
approval to check out.
Right. But we don't even necessarily have all 46.
That is correct.
Okay.
So I have a master little spreadsheet here that we've been working off of. We're taking a look at where all of these titles are, whether they've been checked out. But ultimately, what would end up happening is they would remain on our shelves. However, when the student brings that text up, we would have a pop-up to the librarian, which would say this book requires a parent or guardian approval for checkout. That would be a temporary rule until those reviews could get done, hopefully by the start of the 2023-2024 school year.
Oh, okay.
So we're talking temporary through the end of this academic year through the summer.
Okay.
I've got a couple questions. So currently by policy, when a book is challenged, it is put on hold. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So those
Temporary
40,
hold.
those 46 titles are on hold currently?
Not at this point, because currently we only have official complaints about 2 titles. Those 2 titles are currently held off of the shelf. What we're asking is to put a temporary hold on the remainder of them requiring that parental checkout.
Gotcha.
Or parental approval, my apologies.
Okay. And then my understanding, Dr. Nelson, like with one of these, I think one of the first couple you guys did, or maybe the first one we received the complaint about, we had limited copies of it, 1 or 2 copies. So we actually had to acquire copies for the committee, additional copies of the committee to read a book that we may pull off the shelf.
That is ironic, but
Yes.
it is accurate.
So
for us to do a thorough review, we need to have enough copies.
Right.
The current titles are Tricks and Identical. Tricks we had 3 copies of, and actually 2 members of the committee actually chose to purchase their own, so we did not. Identical we only had 1 copy of within our district, so we had to buy an additional 2, and the remainder of the committee chose to purchase on their own.
Okay. And the books, if the temporary rule is approved, the 46 books would not run through the normal committee process. Is that correct?
It would have to be on a shortened committee,
Mhm.
so we would take time with maybe 1 to 2 members of the committee to review those. Right now, it's taking them about 4 weeks to be able to get through a title. Tricks, for example, is about 400 pages. So it took them a little bit of time to be able to get through. Right now, they're formulating their recommendation to Dr. Hawker, which should be received this week. Identical will be taking some time, but again, that's for 5. And the other problem is getting them all together to be able to talk about their experiences reading the title. So we would like to be able to take a shortened approach to that, still following the policy as written.
And maybe I'm blending kind of what's here tonight, maybe what I've discussed with Dr. Hawker or heard, but I thought we were looking at on some of these using some different rating organizations and kind of skipping the book review, but kind of looking at the ratings and saying, okay, these books are scoring as offensive or whatever it may be, and removing them kind of more streamlined just off ratings and not a physical reading of the 400-page text.
Right. Our intent is to use 3 reputable organizations, Common Sense Media, Book Looks, and Goodreads, to identify what may be considered the most out of range, meaning the most adult content, starting with those, removing those, doing those reviews instantly. But again, over the course of the time, we'd like to review all 46.
So are you saying that the books that do rate as vulgar or inappropriate would be pulled then off of the shelves, so they would not be available for?
Not pulled, but they would be require parent checkout, parent permission, until we've conducted the screening.
The results of the review may recommend to the school district that those titles are removed, but we want to go through the process as it's written.
I'd like to suggest maybe that if those titles are scoring as being that way inappropriate, that they be pulled off the shelf, and then if a student does want to check them out with parental permission, they can get it from behind the desk.
I think that's a fair comment to me. I've said in general, as a dad of 4 daughters, books aren't one of the things I tend to be most scared about for my kids. It tends to be social media and the internet and those sorts of things. But I do think for a general practice, we should avoid, graphic sexual texts and those sorts of things in our school libraries. There's certainly plenty of opportunity for students and families to access those books if they so choose. And so I think kind of a cleaning of the libraries or just a double checking through this, even beyond the 46, I would be supportive of. I don't know how we do that on thousands of books. But
right now there's no process that we would have to be able to extract all of those titles and reference them. It would be probably a manual process. This will, at least the 46 would give us a good opportunity to talk about the scope. A majority of the titles that you reference are not concerning based on pornography or language. It's other concepts or other topics that may be objectionable to some readers. So we definitely want to follow the procedure as it's written, but also recognize that literature is one of those things that may have concerns from a variety of different viewpoints. But I think, again, the most important thing is that we have good quality, variety, and appropriateness for all of our students.
I mean, ultimately, I believe it's a parent's responsibility to decide what's suitable for their children and what's not. And so certainly having the text notification that's going to come available or email notification, that's going to create at least a conversation point. I'm going to be tickled to see my kid check out a book, right? And ask them about it and make sure they're reading it. So, and then also in this memorandum, the SORA opt-out. I appreciate that. I know Ms. Scratman and I spoke about that a few weeks ago in a meeting. So I'm glad to see that's in there as well.
Correct. And for our viewers, SORA is our online library. And just like we would have any access question, if any parent or guardian objects to any instructional materials, Policy 2530 in the associated form allows them to remove access from that. So we have a simple opportunity if anybody would like to remove access from their students to access the online library. Just filling out that form will take care of the trick.
And I'd like to request that those forms are made easily accessible to parents.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, is there a motion at all?
I'm sorry, I have one
One
more
more
comment or question. Came up this week, or maybe last week, I guess it was, with a patron that had sent an email about some books that they accessed through SORA, and they had 2 libraries signed up in their account. They had ours and a public library. I assume it was the Coeur d'Alene Public Library. And I know we've spent a lot of money on SORA, particularly during the pandemics, to make sure kids that were at home learning had access to textbooks.
We've spent zero since last November, 21.
Right. So I wonder about the redundancy, and I guess if we're not spending money, then it's not as big a concern, but if we are spending money on SORA and it's also available through the public library system, I guess I was going to ask maybe that we look at that, and is that an area we can cut? Obviously, if we're not spending money on it, it's not a budget saving issue, but it may be a headache saving issue.
I think all the above, and I see Katie back there fidgeting, so she's probably got something to say. I think our concern is, what I've learned through SORA is that you buy the books that you want. They come in multiple different ways. Sometimes you buy a packet. Sometimes you buy the number of checkouts for a given period of time, and then once you've hit those, you got to buy more, all of those things. And I don't know, Katie can probably paint the picture, I don't know if all the books that we currently have in SORA are exactly the books that the public library has, or vice versa. And again, we have we have at least relative control of what we've brought into SORA. We don't have that viewpoint or that controls, I would say, with a public library checkout. So I think we would just definitely want to consider that. I'm going to be quiet now and let Katie talk.
I just about the content on SORA, there are a few benefits to having the digital library that's specific to the Coeur d'Alene Public Schools. One is that our students, we can curate certain groups of books for students. So for example, every fourth grade child goes through an Idaho unit. And so we have curated a number of Idaho-specific, student-friendly titles that address that learning need. I would also say that a benefit to SORA that we don't get from our physical books in our libraries is that we are able to provide audio books, which are very beneficial for many of our students. And so it provides another opportunity to engage in literacy and ways of getting access to books. And a third item is that it allows us to share these books district-wide rather than just at a particular school. So if, for example, back to the Idaho unit, if we have students who want to learn about Idaho at Dalton and we have kids who want to learn about Idaho at Winton, they can both have access to the same grouping of books. So there are some benefits, I would say, to having a digital library that we can curate. Another benefit is that when we find out what the Idaho book Battle of the Books, when we find out what those titles are, for example, we can start to curate them. Or if there's a need for students to get access digitally, I mean, there are benefits to it, and we don't have to spend much additional cost into getting some of those titles to our families. That said, I understand the headache that can be involved in curating and making sure that we have the books that we need for our kids.
Can students access SORA throughout the summer and their vacations as well then too?
They can, yes.
Okay.
Katie, as that SORA library is curated, I don't know who is responsible. Maybe the teachers are, but Katie's responsible. Okay, so he's pointing at you.
Well,
okay. Well, someone must be responsible. So as we curate those collections for those online access, we're making sure that the material is educationally suitable and obviously not containing vulgarity and things that are age inappropriate. Correct? Someone is doing that.
We purchase books that are sometimes that are. Yeah, the short answer is yes. We are doing that. That said, might there be books in there that we don't find appropriate right now? That could be possible, but we have, if any books have come to our attention, we have definitely moved to address it.
Thank you. And the notification that's going to happen with our physical books, we're exploring whether that's possible with SORA. Is that correct?
To my knowledge, in what we've found so far, that isn't possible. So that could just be a conversation piece with with children at home. You should be able to access your child's SORA bookshelf. However, they can scrub it, we've learned, and so that is something that is concerning. So if you don't want your child to have access to SORA, that's why we have the opt-out form if it's a concern.
But as you
Thank
can
you.
imagine, the purveyors of SORA have also been seeing complaints rising, and that is something that they are working on as well. It's just not an immediate feature available.
Thank you.
So will SORA be compliant with the new parental rights laws as far as parents being able to see whatever their children have been checking out? If they can scrub it, does that end up going against that?
Correct. And we're working with SORA to make sure that they understand Idaho law and to ensure that all families have access to be able to see it. Again, for example, my children both have logins. I can log in as my child and I can see everything that they're doing. I can access all of their curriculum materials at any time, including their online library.
Right. Any additional comments or questions? Right. Is there a motion for the temporary waiver of policy 2530?
I move to approve Well, I move to approve a temporary waiver of policy 2530 as presented, except let's move those books maybe.
I was going to say
Some,
regarding
yeah, not
sexually
just on the
explicit
normal
content
shelf.
materials that
Yeah. So
be held
separate.
counter.
Held counter, yeah.
All right. Could we, Trustee Tenberg, would
Yeah.
you repeat that so that Ms.
So,
Southwick can?
approve the temporary waiver of policy 2530 as presented with the addition that the 40, whatever, the books we're talking about be held behind the counter or equivalent, whatever
Trustee
that looks
Timbering,
like in a
typically
library.
that would be called a reserve shelf.
Okay, reserve shelf, there we go, that's our word.
Must be checked out with parental permission only.
Yeah, so the policy said, the waiver says parental permission
Requiring
already.
parental permission.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion or
Clarifying
clarify?
question. Do you have a time frame on this, Dr. Nelson?
Well, with the crack of the gavel, we can make sure that this starts happening as soon as this week. For the online notification, that probably won't be in place until July 1.
Yeah, I'm more interested in the 46 book review. Do you have a time frame for that? How long you think
Start
that'll
the
take
reviews?
to complete it?
Yes, so we're trying to get it done before the start of the 2023-2024 school year, as posted within the memo.
But to be clear, with this waiver, we're going to take those books and pull them to a reserve shelf.
Correct.
And they're still going to require parent permission, even if it takes me a year to get to that point. Just to be clear, our hope is to try to fast track that and get that accomplished this summer. But I think I just want to be clear that we're not going to show up to the first day of school and say, oh, well, we only got through half the book, so we're moving the other half back out as normal. This rule waiver right here we're asking for is just to deviate from our very tedious but very thorough process, and try to get caught up with these 40-some books, and then we can go back to the normal process that you've adopted that requires us to put together a committee.
Do you think that at that September board meeting, you could come back and give us an update at that point of where you're at in the process? We might end up doing more work this summer,
We'll
which
make
might,
a note of it. You bet. We'll make
either
a note
way.
of it and have it on the agenda.
But for
further
September,
information.
just to let us know where we're at and give us
that
an
was
update.
part of my reason, I guess, on it. If it's successful and workable, if perhaps we could expand it and do some of that work on our own, of identifying some that perhaps need some additional review.
As always.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion passed. We're going to go right into our strategic plan as presented. And Dr. Nelson, are you up? Or?
He is.
All right.
I don't
thank
get
you.
to move very far.
We all received, I think, a printed copy then
Chair
as well.
Smith, Superintendent Hawker, and members of the board, again, about a month ago, we stood in front of you and talked to you about the first steps of our strategic plan revision. Keep in mind that what we are asking you for today is not to complete the plan. This is a plan in progress, and we want to make sure that we are moving down the path that we can all agree with. We also, since the last time we talked, had the opportunity to reach out again to the parents and guardians of our community. We sent out information through our social media channel as well as through our school newsletters to solicit as much parental feedback as we possibly could. Today, in your hands, we provide to you some updated views of our strategic plan framework, our motto, and our draft mission and vision statements. Today, we hope that you might be able to consider adopting these four, as it would allow us to identify specific indicators under each one of these areas that we want to work with. Those will be publicly presented and monitored so that we can all see how we're moving toward meeting each of these goals. The 5 areas were lauded throughout the survey. Most of them thought that the goal areas were exactly what our community needs at this particular point. Most of the feedback had to do with the second fletching, which is about safe, collaborative, and supportive cultures. The other piece that was in there is that we had several patrons comment about the colors of the fletchings. So those have been adjusted to better match the district's color scheme. Finally, we also had a couple of patrons talk about the target itself. And they said that the target wasn't clear enough to them as to what that really meant. So using words right out of our mission, we put the word achievement right on the target. Moving down a little bit to some feedback on our motto. Forward Together was lauded as they felt generally that it represented the commitments that we have to serve our students, to adapt, to be able to meet the needs of kids, and to ultimately recognize their academic and career goals. One of the patrons also said, you know, we're in a very dynamic time where kids are graduating not really being able to know exactly what their career field looks like. Who knows what thoracic surgery is going to look like in another 10 years? So our kids have to continually adopt, and so never being satisfied is kind of inherent. We did have a couple of patrons also mention that the words Forward Together felt similar or to another organization, but just to give you the origins of it, it actually has to do with Winston Churchill, who had told the troops during World War II, let us go forward together. The intent of that is, again, to unite and to challenge. In our third component, again, this is what the online dashboard would look like. It would give us an opportunity to identify specific goals in each of these areas, identify when we expect these goals to be done, and then show you how we're working toward them. Our draft mission statement did achieve a little bit of a change. It was slimmed a little bit more to remove a couple of words out of it. Most of the respondents felt that really focusing on responsibility and opportunity, being the ever-changing world, was important to that. They also felt that this actually matched really well our expectations that our students become lifelong learners and that they take responsibility for their learning, guided by our professional staff. The last piece was our vision statement for what we wanted to see. The word achievement, again, came throughout. A lot of our community felt that this was important to make sure that our student achievement rises to the expectations of this community. We did have some respondents who felt that the vision appears egotistical, that we want to seem elitist by being a district of choice in Idaho and in the Northwest. But without district attendance zones, we felt that this was also an opportunity for those around us to be able to understand the values that we have. So again, our hope is that we can take a few minutes to discuss where we are at. Again, to remind you that this is not a static document. Our four elements we would like to lock in, but that would give us an opportunity collaboratively to look at any one of the fletchings, to look at our mission and vision statement, to look at our overall motto and say, well, what do we want to see? We've started drafting many of these key indicators at this point, but we didn't want to put the cart before the horse. It wouldn't make sense for us to come up with all of these great plans and indicators of what this looks like without your initial approval. So we'd like to present to you our framework for our strategic plan and answer any questions that you have.
Dr. Nelson.
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you for all your hard work. Start with some positives here. And I do appreciate all your graphics. You're very good with those. I have emailed you a couple of times, and I apologize for my late notice. I've been spending lots of times reviewing all the language arts stuff, so this kind of fell to the back burner, so I apologize. I had sent you an email regarding the categories encouraging community partnerships and safe, supportive, collaborative cultures. Mm-hmm. I feel like those are very broad categories and not easily measurable. I would like to see something, I'm going to say simple, but simple doesn't mean like, bad. It just means that simple, clear, relatable. I want people to look at this and be able to connect with it. Obviously, we need measurable goals. Perhaps maybe narrow and define our focus a little bit more. And I sent you a sample of a strategic plan that I think is really great. And it's just very clean. It's so relatable. I think the whole the whole district was able to really have buy-in, and it pairs perfectly when you get all that buy-in. It gives us a direction, and it does allow us to move forward together. But this is a little bit not as clear and concise as I would like, and I want this to be a document too that no one ever wants to look at. You know, that's not, I've been through lots of strategic plans in my career, and literally you take them and you stick them on a shelf, and then you don't have the buy-in and you don't have people with a common vision. So there are some things about this one that I would like to see tweaked. But my bigger concern is your use of the Hanover Research, these SMARTY goals. Particularly the last one, you might want to look at that. The equitable and explicit goals are equitable and have explicit language that addresses systematic injustice, inequity, bias, and oppression. I don't even know why that's there.
Well, Trustee Vierke, again, that is a reference point. It does not mean that it's going to be something that's followed. I would like to respond, if I may, a little bit to the first parts.
Sorry, I gave you a lot.
Oh, no, that's totally fine. I do believe that this is an important document for us to have. By no means does anyone want this work to be settled on. It would be an injustice to the people who spent time to give us their feedback along the way. We're at a unique time, and I hope that not to engage with you at this point, but I gave you some samples of what we were looking at under each of those two fletchings. Did any of those measure or work for you? No, ma'am. I had actually sent you the indicators, some indicators in draft that we've been looking at for the two fletchings that you had mentioned. Every one of the indicators that we have will be specific, time-bound, measurable. We're not interested in just putting words up on a page. We want people to be able to engage, specifically around the encouraging community partnerships. That is truly to bring the people in our community who have experience and passion for our schools into our fold, to make sure that we're better presenting ourselves with financial literacy, to show the transparency of our work, to use the experience of those who may be retired potentially, coming into our classrooms, being mentors and other. So we do have lots of specific metrics that will be part of that. The other thing I think that's important to keep in mind is the Bruno Grandview one that you had sent me. It is wonderful, but it's a district of 200 people. So it's...
these goals are great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Madam Chair, if I may, the next step is the lagging and leading indicator work of each of those fletchings, and that's what comes next. Underneath each of those, like safe, supportive, and collaborative cultures, we will have specific benchmark focus items so that we'll be able to measure those, we'll be able to report on those as we move forward so that we can update those. And Dr. Nelson has created that Gantt chart that will track all of that, and we'll keep that very public facing as well. I guess I'm not connecting with the Hanover research piece of this.
It's what they're going to use for their goals, correct?
That is incorrect. That was simply a reference as to how to engage a community into creating a strategic plan. Not in this strategic plan. It is not in our strategic plan.
It's in our packet, just as a reference, though, of how strategic plans across the country kind of come together. And
are we using that?
No, ma'am. It was simply used as a reference to say how.
Oh, so we're not using it at all.
It is not. It is not being used for the purposes of our plan.
Great.
It is simply an opportunity for us to show how those SMART goals are created and to engage the community into a strategic plan. By no means do we use any research to be able to follow exactly. We're Coeur d'Alene Public Schools, and we try to use outside research to inform our decisions, not necessarily follow all of that.
Yeah, and so to be clear too, we all received the Bruno Grandview strategic plan. I think we all agreed that it's written very, very easy for everybody to understand. I would say that our intent moving forward is 100% not to have a strategic plan that sits on a shelf and nobody knows about. We're going to use it all the time and make decisions. And my hope would be that the body of this board will use that strategic plan as you make decisions and as you guide budget decisions and the directions of the district. This will be a 5-year flash forward window for us to monitor and make adjustments along the way. Again, as Dr. Nelson has said, I think Bruno Grandview's strategic plan is great, and we've used it to help simplify a very large 100+ page strategic plan down to our couple of pages, today as well. I think what's very most important to remember is strategic plans are about your district. You can't buy one off the shelf. You can't go copy somebody else's. And as Dr. Nelson said, Bruno Grandview's a school district of about 300 students. Our smallest elementary school is larger than their entire district. So their strategic planning and what they focused on was completely different. We are a top performing school district. When they built their strategic plan, they were a bottom performing school district. And that's the report that you've heard from Ryan Cantrell, their former superintendent, in regards to creating a plan that helped their staff and their community be very specific on what they wanted to move forward so that they could make some accomplishments. And they've done marvelous work with that. We've got to take it from the lens that we're already a high-performing school district, and how do we move that needle even further? So we're going to have to be very specific, and my intents are to have specific lagging and leading indicators for each of these matrices that we're going to do, and that will dovetail very nicely as well with our high reliable schools focus, because those certification process for each level 1 for instance is safe and supportive schools. There are specific lagging and leading indicators that will be assigned to that. Well, we determine one of those. The people that come and score you, they will give us those specific leading, those leading indicators. We determine the lagging indicators. Does that make sense? Did I confuse you all because now you've been here 3 hours and I know it's been a long night.
I maybe just want to make sure I understand. I think what you're asking us to do is to, in general, approve the fletchlings. That's what we're calling them, right? Fletchings.
That every leading indicators, when we look at each of those fletchings, we're going to identify what are the specific things that we want to do that are action and research based on the data that we have for ISAT scores, for example. And what do we want to see? When do we want it done by? You will then be able to see all of those, join with us, make sure that we are accountable to you, you are accountable to us. All of that would be done as the next steps once these pieces are there. If we didn't have this piece done, we wouldn't be able to go down that part.
Right. So the motion in there is to approve the strategic plan as presented. That is not what this is. This is not a strategic plan at this point, right? This is really the draft of those three items. This is all we're asking
to approve.
Okay, that's where it was a little
So
like,
I think
yeah, it's not.
when perhaps if we make a motion, I would suggest that we approve the draft 3 items, the mission statement, the vision statement, and the
There are 4 total.
There's
or 4 items. Okay, thank you.
Did you say the mission statement wasn't
Oh, and the
completed
motto.
yet?
The mission statement and vision statement are on the back there for you.
Right. Didn't you say they were still a work in progress?
They have been revised since the last time that we presented to you. So we took all of the public comment that we received since the last board meeting, and there were some small little adjustments that were made.
I have a question about how often are we planning to revisit the strategic plan? Like, the problem with our other one, I felt like, well, there were 2 problems. 1, it was enormous. 2, it was just kind of adopted and not under, a strategic plan should be fairly regularly looked at and revised. So what's our plan?
Let me answer that. The lagging indicators will be our monitoring progress. So once we get this put together, we will have this Gantt chart, and Mike's already showed me a great draft of it. That's going to be our forward-facing document to show our progress and our success along the way. So it's not a put it on the shelf and forget about it. And then that will be our work to share out those updates on an ongoing basis. They all go back and reference the overall 4 pillars, if you will, of the strategic plan.
But we'll, next year, if we think, oh, we're not really making the progress we want in this area, we'll revisit those. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, we're not going to do this and then just report for 5 years and never actually
No.
No, and that's why we want the leading indicators. And so, like, in a good strategic plan, we would come back and we'd keep the mission statement, but we might change the lower goals that we're kind of
every
working towards.
year, maybe.
Yeah, the goals would change maybe out of those, but the things that we're driving for, the mission and the vision and our motto, those are consistent and stay consistent. But then the goals within them, that's what we modify and change and realize in 2 years, well, maybe we're not this goal within community partnerships needs to get tweaked for the next 2 years and that type of thing.
Okay.
Correct.
So.
And Trustee Tenbrink, we've designed the Gantt chart right now to be about a 5-year plan. So you can see.
Yeah,
these
it's actually that 5 years on there that made me ask that question, because I don't necessarily want all those things on the left to stay the same for 5 years.
But we could revisit after. We don't have to just keep that. We can.
And some of those would fall off as we achieve them. As we achieve some of them,
It's
We're
like
visioning
a
a
living
3 to 5 year plan,
document,
but again,
right?
where the Bruno Grandview document is a single document that
Yeah,
stays
I
there.
still love
and
it, even though it's a
gets-
small
Oh,
district.
I'm not putting
But,
it down. But this would be an
This
iterative,
is like a living
ongoing
document
process.
that we can revisit and tweak as we also maybe see if something's not working as well as we had hoped for. We can go back and make it better.
Yeah. Okay, great.
That's what you're supposed to do with the
figured,
strategic
but I just thought
plan.
I would clarify.
My understanding.
Trustee Anderton, yeah.
All the different training sessions that I've been to on the strategic planning is that a strategic plan is intended to be a living document, and that it should be ever changing to be able to meet the needs of our district, even if it's less. We have to revisit it if we're not meeting our goals, and that's the prerogative of the board.
Couple things on the document, just maybe comments or questions I have on the fletchings.
You
Thank
can
you.
just call it the dart. That's
All right.
generally what we've been calling it.
It's the ribbons. So encouraging community partnerships, just to me, is it's just weak. In my opinion, and not, I'm not disparaging anyone here, but creating, developing, there's so many other words. Encouraging is like, we're going to try, and if we can get some, great.
Maybe
It seems a little soft
Well,
to me.
that's what it's not really measuring. How do you measure encouraging? I mean, I would like to see that tidied up.
So-
The top two tidied up.
Creating, developing, something along that line.
I agree.
The
Prioritizing.
Establishing.
Yeah. Okay. Then I'm on the next one. I'm going to probably have 8 years of board member hangover flashbacks here. But cultures, I hate to say it, but it scares me. It's just a trigger word, a little in that safe, supportive, and collaborative cultures. I think currently we say safe and supportive and collaborating learning environments. Dr. Hawker, I heard you say schools. I assume that's from HRS, but cultures. That's one of those I think people think we're getting out of our lane, and now we're talking, cultures. We're not talking schools and learning. So I don't love cultures there. I would prefer schools or learning environments.
So noted.
I was going to just add just a little bit. Actually, districts do have cultures, as do the individual school sites. They all kind of have their own personalities, and they're like a little family. So, I mean, I actually don't mind the word culture. But I see what you're saying.
It's a trigger word for me, I guess.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to.
On the next one, last month we talked about rigor. Yes. I wonder if we could slide rigor into the next one. Effective, rigorous teaching and learning, or something along that line.
Or removing the word effective and putting it into rigorous. I mean, they really are two separate things.
Sure, I'm fine with that. I mean, I don't know.
To see the word rigor.
I'm leaning towards your suggestion too, Casey, with that. There needs to be more focus on the rigor somewhere in here, however it ends up being
I
worded.
kind of like effective and rigorous teaching and learning, but
yeah. And just a concern that's coming up for me with all these different things that I've been to recently is they talk about anything over 4 of these goals or the fletchings being a little bit too much on a strategic plan and that you should narrow it down to 3 or 4. Is there a way that we could narrow this down and streamline it a little bit better?
Potentially. We actually started in our community work, we started with around 10, and ultimately we landed on 5. We can certainly look at where our leading indicators are coming out right now and see if there's some synapse that we could make that work.
I wouldn't be too scared of specific 5. I hear you exactly. You'd never want too many. Our HRS path is also 5 levels of certification. So, and each of those feathers, we can find a way to relate to each of those levels. So I think as long as we don't go above 5, I think that's something to consider.
I've got 2 more. Sorry, Dr. Nelson.
Ready.
On our yellow ribbon, I'm going with ribbons now. It's evident student and teacher achievement, and then our target is achievement also. To me, it's a little confusing. That's achievement on both sides. I understand the intent, but I just wonder, is it our bullseye is maybe attainment or goals or accomplishments, or I don't know, something. Or maybe achievement's not in the yellow ribbon, but it's our achievement of our achievement.
Understood.
It's interesting to me,
I think
guess.
to Trustee Anderton's suggestion of maybe squiggling it down a little bit, I'm thinking out loud, Dr. Nelson. But what if we combined those 2 ribbons, the effective teaching, 3 and 4, if you want to number them from top down. I think if we had effective and rigorous teaching and learning, you're gonna measure student achievement off of those goals. Maybe it's a way to get a 4 feather fletching there instead of 5.
I like that.
Yeah.
And we don't have achievement and achievement.
And then I have just one more, maybe 2 more comments. I'm happy with the motto at this point, and I think the vision statement. The mission statement, there were some comments about the in an ever-changing world, and I guess world has become a trigger word for me too, as sad as that sounds. But it has. I think in a meeting I talked about guilt by association, and that's one I think could be guilt by association. There's some folks who don't prefer a worldly view. So I just
take it out and just be
to
a
be responsible
citizens.
citizens, period.
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't even mind if it said responsible and contributing citizens, period.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good too.
I would like that too.
I would like that too.
And speaking to the guilty by association thing, I think if we are going to use a framework like this to be able to build our strategic plan on or using these steps, I know there's other resources out there. I think it would be wise to try and choose something else that doesn't have something other than the Hanover research, that doesn't have this equitable and explicit language that addresses systemic injustice, inequity, bias, and oppression. A lot in our community are going to look at that, and the acronym CRT is going to start flying around if that's what we have attached to anything that we have that we're using.
Well, I think we're all familiar with SMART goals, and if we end at T and we avoid I and E. I think that's probably what the state would require as part of the strategic plan, is they require SMART goals. So.
Correct. And on our continuous improvement plans that you approve every October, same thing.
Okay. A couple things just from me, from my seat. Trustee Marcer was just saying responsible citizens and contributing. I wonder if a contributing citizen is a responsible citizen, so maybe you don't need an extra word in there. Contributing's a little weird.
I serve at your pleasure. So
there you go.
If
you go back to
your point was if they're
right.
responsible citizens, they are contributing. That's what she said to me. So that's fair.
So you're back with responsible citizens, period?
Period. Short and sweet. You got to be able to memorize that mission statement and take it to heart, and it's got to move people along. The one thing from last meeting that we talked a lot about was the financial piece of our whole district and just how that moves us. That is the vehicle that moves all this forward. I am wondering, I don't know the words. You can workshop that, but I wonder if on the front square of your arrow there, where you're holding it on, and that's the piece that you let go, kind of where the power is there. If there's not some sort of financial target word in that
Right in this area right here?
right in there is some sort of financial that's accountability. I don't like that in necessary that wording. I want that, but maybe not there. But there's something that undergirds and moves us forward, and just as a reminder, as you look at that is what is moving us.
Potentially.
Yes, whatever that needs to be. The other thing, I do appreciate the vision statement. I heard what you said about maybe feeling like that's maybe egotistical, and yet a good vision statement is going to be beyond us, and it's going to push us forward. The other way I think you'd end up saying that would be, we're not going to be number 2, since that's come up a few times. We want to push for that. So I think this kind of drives us forward. That gives us something to shoot for. So however we can continue to do that would be great. So good vision statement will move us forward and give us something to shoot for by 2028. So
thank you.
Any additional thoughts, trustees, or reflections? Because obviously this will come back. It's still somewhat in draft form, but tonight we just want to be able to encourage you forward.
Kind of got me thinking on that white part, maybe trust and transparency, or working on that trust piece with the community. So you kind of got my brain, not the financial part, but it went in a different direction.
Mhm.
So trust, transparency, so that the community knows that we are interested in having that relationship, and that there has to be trust. I mean,
we need something in that white little area right there anyway, so I like that.
Okay.
Trust.
Yeah, I like
we
that.
can do trust on one there's like 2 flat panels there, right? So we can make the language, trust and transparency.
I think we need something that works on encouraging and developing trust.
I think that's good, and we'll cut out one of the fletchings, and that'll be great.
So
is this enough changes that it needs to come back before we take any action? Is that what you were going to say?
I did take some notes, but I guess it's totally up to you. If you, again, this is a draft, and it's going to be a live document for a while anyway. We've got to get to work, and we've been obviously very, very busy right now. So we've got to put together a lot of the background work of this with those indicators. So if you would like, we could perhaps make these updates and then just send that out to you in a board on a Friday update in a little while, unless you want us to bring it back and show you the final document at maybe the June board meeting. So
But when we actually approve a plan, we need all
We'll have it
those
all.
bits. So this was just trying to make sure you were heading
we
the right
want the
direction.
framework, correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So, do we want to approve the drafts of these 4 items with the proposed edits? And then
That's
we're
what I
going to
was
see it
thinking.
again
I think we need to
anyways.
make
We'll
sure and
just-
specify that we want it with the
I think you could choose
proposed
to just make the
edits.
motion be to approve the strategic plan as modified, and then we'll bring it back to you with these modifications, and then along with further, the further indicators.
I guess I have issue with calling this the strategic plan, because I don't
We
think
just
this
call
is
it a
it.
draft
Can we?
strategic
Let's
plan?
let's put draft in there.
Draft in.
Let's put draft in the
Draft
motion.
for it. Okay.
Okay.
Will that work?
Framework's a trigger word.
Just a draft. Casey, draft strategic plan. 'Cause it is a draft. It's a work in progress.
I'll make a motion to approve the draft strategic plan with the proposed revisions.
is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it moves forward. Thank you, Dr. Nelson, and to the whole team for all your work. I know there's a lot of work that's gone into getting us to this point, so thank you.
Hey, Dr. Hucker, with the direction we're moving on this, I just wonder if it's, and with some of the public comment we had tonight, if it's appropriate for us in a future board meeting to scrap some of the previous frameworks or, some of the former strategic plan documents, like we did the transgender guidelines tonight.
We can certainly talk about that further, I guess. I guess let's just do that so I can get a better understanding of exactly where you're at. I mean, we're moving forward, with this new strategic plan.
This is replacing the old strategic plan, correct?
Yep.
Right. But I know there's been some discussion about like the teaching framework and still utilizing that. So
correct.
I just wonder if
teaching
that's going to be
framework
it,
is
that
part
we
of the effective teaching feather that's up there, fletching.
Right.
So yeah, I just want to be careful of line iteming out and saying we're not. You've invested a lot in effective teaching. We want to take that.
I guess think of some of the other ones, not the teacher framework, but just some of those. What was there, 7 or 8 documents?
Yeah, I think we can just be very clear as we move forward. This is the new and revised and updated strategic plan, and here it is. And whatever was done in the past, again, it just never got rolled out very well because of COVID.
Right. Okay.
All right, let's move on then to renaming Venture High School and presentation on that. Thank you, Mr. Derrick.
All right, thanks, Chair Smith, Dr. Hawker, and trustees. The last few months, we've spent quite a bit of time taking a look at the structure, specifically of CDVA. And in the process of doing that, first of all, let me introduce Ms. Kaiser, the principal at Venture High School, as she's here as well, in case you have some questions for her also. But we've taken a look at that for the last couple of, few months. And the reason why we were taking a look at it is what we realized is what we wanted to do is we wanted to take CDVA. Initially, we were going to just restructure it so Ms. Kaiser would be the principal of CDVA. And in the process of a lot of different conversations with her and several other people in the cabinet level, it just felt like we could be much more efficient and effective in instruction and with our funding if we actually just put CDVA and assimilate it into Venture High School. Well, understanding that if we did that, CDVA does have middle school students, so in essence, that would cause the impetus for us to change the name. So what I want to show initially, if we could go to the next slide, is do I have control of that item or no?
You do.
Up here. Okay, here we go. So the first thing I want to do is just kind of give you a brief summary of what the restructuring proposal would look like, and you have this in your packet. But in essence, we would just rename Venture High School to Venture Academy. And the sole reason for that is just understanding, obviously, if we're going to have middle school students in this particular school, high school would not be an accurate representation of the name of that school. The next thing is we would change the structure of CDVA. CDVA would still exist, but it'd be a K-12 school as opposed to, K-5 school, thank you, instead of a K-12 school. And then finally, we would move our current C-12 CDVA online program under the umbrella of Venture Academy. And in the process of a lot of conversation about this, what was exciting about it is, so Venture Academy would be the umbrella, and then our online options, our in-person high school options, and we have the line connecting the two. And in talking to Teresa specifically, we have a lot of students in our Venture High School that could really benefit from the online option that we could present to them because of the different challenges and the different learning structures that would best fit those students. And we also have students that are in our online school that would really benefit from some in-person options as well, especially at that high school level, grades 9, 12, where they could take a class, an elective or something like that in person. So just a real basic structure, that's what we're looking at. Now the rationale is I just briefly talked about it, but our current middle school and high school online program really hasn't been effective. When I started the job back in July, one of the things that we were looked at, we're going to commit to this online program. In the process of going through it for a year, we found a couple of things. One is it's popular. In light of, I would say, the messiness of what we've done this year, we still had students grow. It actually grew from first semester to second semester. And the other thing that we realized is our students aren't nearly as effective as we need them to be. I'm not satisfied at all with the student success of our online program. I think we can do tons better. But one of the things that we really need to do in order to make that online program effective is we need more staffing. We need those students to have more access to teachers. We need more of a hybrid situation where they can actually come in and communicate and talk physically every once in a while, not all the time, but every once in a while to staff and teachers. And it's interesting, when you start a school, you need a counselor, you need administration, you need teachers, you need a registrar, and all of those things. And in our CDVA structure, we had about half of those. And so we were asking other staff at other schools to kind of fill in the gaps, with some stipends and that type of thing. But it just was, I'm going to use the word clunky. It was very clunky, and it wasn't effective. And our students, at the end of the day, weren't being served well. And again, the beauty of it is that this online program can be something that can really service some of our other students as well. So as we look at that particular rationale, that was one of the things that we felt like would be a benefit. The other thing is the restructure. Again, like I said, would allow for our current administration, certificated and support staff to provide more effective instruction for students enrolled in Venture Academy. Greater support and be more efficient use of staffing. For example, Venture High School, has an office manager already. Okay, so we could utilize that position in order to help us with the online portion of that online school. The counseling department, we didn't have a counselor for CDVA. Venture High School has a counselor, and so we could utilize that staffing. So from a funding mechanism, I'm not saying that, but if we had 100 and some students, it obviously increases the workload of some of our staff at Venture High School, but it also means that we have some teachers, and talking to Teresa, we have some teachers that, hey, maybe a period they could actually help teach an online class, and that would be effective. But when they're two separate schools, like I said, it's very clunky, and it just doesn't work very well. So if we could merge them, it's going to be a lot more efficient, and ultimately our students are going to be much better served by this particular structural change. The other thing that it does, we know not all students learn the same way, and we need to provide some educational choice for some of our students. And I'm not saying for all of our students, but we know there are students that would greatly benefit from some non-traditional educational programs. This particular restructuring gives us the ability to be able to grow those different learning options within our district. And so the next slide is simply kind of it's a little bit of a taste of that. So we have our online option, we have our in-person high school option. I've met with a committee for the last several months too about a middle school. We know we have some needs in our middle schools for some alternative programs. What does that look like? Well, we also know that's not a large program, it's a smaller program. And so again, if we just start a middle school, it's costly. And if we can put it all underneath one umbrella and then utilize staff more seamlessly between the different learning options and the different choices that we have, it's so much more efficient, and we can just do a better job with that. One of the other things you'll see is project-based learning option as well. Again, we don't see that as a huge need for a ton of students. We know our comprehensive high schools and our comprehensive middle schools do a great job with the majority of our students. But we have some students that could really benefit from that kind of learning. And if we could tap into that, and maybe even to some of our homeschool parents, and one of the things we'd like to do is to have better communication with our homeschool community and provide some options for them as well that would fit into a learning choice like we're talking about here, our learning menu. I think it'd be greatly beneficial for our community. And again, we can do it for the fraction of the cost. And the other thing that we can do is, because it's under Venture Academy, the students that we have in our current online program, 100% of them, and talking to Teresa and I, we've gone through the roster, 100% of them would qualify for the at-risk criteria, which means we get 1.5 I know Shannon looks at it differently, but it basically 1.5 times each student, the funding for each student. And it's simply because these are students that typically are not successful in their traditional learning program, where they can be successful here. So they follow into that at-risk character or category. So I'm actually super excited about this particular change. It's a subtle change, but we have some teaching staff currently at Venture. We have an incredible teaching staff there, actually. We had the Teacher of the Year, and many of you heard him speak at the Chamber of Commerce breakfast, what an awesome speech he gave. But we have incredible staff there that are highly motivated to provide these kind of non-traditional learning programs for our students. And the other thing too, Venture Academy, it's a subtle change, but one of the things we kind of want to move away from is this mindset that Venture Academy is for students that just can't make it anywhere else. And that's not what we want. And that's not what we believe. We believe Venture Academy is going to be a place where students just need a different approach. And we want to provide that different approach for our students. And I think this has a tremendous potential to do that. So in order to do that, there's a couple of logistical things that we would ask you to approve or consider. And we know in our board policy 9800, anytime we change the name of a school, we would need board approval to do that. And so that would be the one thing that we would ask, that Venture Academy would retain the same IC code, the same state code. We would just simply rename it, and we could do that. I've already talked to the State Department about this, and it's a fairly simple change. We would just simply rename it from Venture High School to Venture Academy. And then also we would have to, in our application to the state, we would have to indicate that we're going to be having a learning program it would be an online program as well, and include students 612. And there's no problem at all. We could simply do that. We have plenty of time to do that even for next year. It's a pretty simple fix. We've been talking to Jay, our tech guru here in the district office, and he does a lot of that IC coding, with the state. And then finally, obviously we'd have to change the application from CDVA to just include K-5. So it wouldn't be a K-12, and that it would be the same IC code, but we'd still have that particular school for our students in the elementary levels, for those students that need that. So that's the kind of a summary of what we're talking about. Again, I think it has a tremendous opportunities for us to serve students in a very unique and particular way to really help some of our students be very, very successful. So, any questions? And again, Teresa's here as well, so if you
my question is for her.
It is, okay. Come on
No,
up.
I guess I just want to hear from your perspective. I mean, adding middle schoolers adds some number of people. I guess we don't know that number exactly, and of a different age. And Venture really is good. Like, you really do a good job there. So I guess I just want to hear, like, you see the way forward with younger students and more students in your program?
So our program, the application is already written to include students 6 through 8 because Venture has previously had middle school students. My own background is actually as a middle school teacher and administrator. The middle school students, at least starting out, are all working online. And currently for CDVA, the middle school students, I think that what I see is happening is we don't have that human interaction with the kids that they need. And so they're working at home. What I foresee is being able to have every student will belong to like an advisory group, and they'll be accountable to that advisory teacher who's also a content area teacher. Most of our certifications are for 612 or 412. So we'll be needing staff who are certified for middle school, but most of our high school staff is certified for that.
Thank you.
Teresa, while you're up there, maybe just share a little bit of your vision for this new structure if that's okay with you, because she's the one that gave me the vision, actually.
So the way it currently exists, there's teachers who are working, they have their they got their day job, right? And then they're creating classes online for students. In addition to that, we have students who are taking IDLA classes. But I think if there's one thing any of us that works with children knows is children have to have an interaction. They have to have some kind of a relationship with an adult. And of course, they have the relationship with their parents. But there's for many of our kids who are in the online program, there's a little bit of a disconnect between the relationship that they need to have with an adult who's overseeing their education and then their parents. And so sometimes the parents, that's not quite their gig, right? And so what I'd like to do is for every student, whether they're working all with IDLA, if they're working with classes that the teachers have come up with that are driven by Schoology and with our own district curriculum, that they belong to an advisory group and that they meet with the advisory teacher once a week. What I'd like to see is the students who are currently passing with a 70% or better in all of their classes, that they can do like an online, maybe a Zoom or Google Meets meeting. For the ones that are struggling, and right now we have quite a few struggling students in CDVA, that there would be a requirement that they actually come into Venture and they work for maybe an hour, maybe for half a day. But the advantage of doing going through this restructure is that the students would have access to transportation. So parents who aren't able to drive their kids in the middle of the day, the kids could take a bus, come to Venture in the morning, spend the day there and go home in the afternoon. And during that time, they could get one-on-one support, even if they're doing IDLA classes, if they're doing Edmentum classes, or if they're working with a teacher through Schoology, they could still get one-on-one support and tutoring. What we have found at Venture, what makes the difference for kids is, for most kids, they don't need hours of tutoring. They need an adult who cares about them to sit next to them and explain a few concepts. I was reading through some notes that the kids I visit with each one of our advisories. I have pizza with the principal. It's kind of an excuse to have pizza, but it's also a great excuse to just interact with kids. And I ask them 2 questions, and they write it out on a card. The first one is, what's going well for you at Venture? And they talk about that, and they have a few minutes to write. And the next one is, if you were principal for a day, what would you do differently? So I had an opportunity to read through those cards this weekend because I was writing my appreciation notes to the teachers. And the one consistent message I found from maybe 70% of the kids wrote this out is, at Venture, the teachers care about me and they take time. And one student in particular wrote, I used to think that I couldn't write. Now I know I just needed somebody to show me how to do it. So I think that same spirit of caring about the kids for who they are, and that willingness to meet them for where they are. Sometimes they have great skill sets. Sometimes they're great and they work at a 10th grade level in math. They're working at a 3rd grade level in English. At Venture, what I have found teachers are doing is they meet students exactly where they are, and they celebrate the brilliance of who they are as people. I think that same mindset could go to students who are working online. But in order for that to happen, I need to grab hold of those kids and bring them in, whether it's for an hour in person, if it's for a full day in person, or maybe it will be for Google Meets. But they need to have that connection with an advisor. What other questions do you have?
I do have 2 quick questions, and thank you for that and for your service for kids. One, have we seen yet any change in kids outside the district coming into CDVA? Because I know we had opened that up, but I wonder with the changes in boundaries that are going to affect July 1.
We haven't seen a significant change in that.
Okay.
Yeah. But I do think, again, with like anything, it's the quality of the educational experience. And the beauty of Venture is that they go to school 4 days a week. We have a building that's available 1 day a week where we can have students actually come in. And then we're also looking at some other space even during those other days as well, that we could keep them safe and separate, but in a good spot.
Right. And
What if the levy does not pass, would CDVA go away?
Well, my recommendation is that it would not. It actually is a school that generates revenue for the district. So it's a program that is a program of choice. Does not run at a deficit. It's actually a program that allows some flexibility, some student options. And again, as we reach out, as we mentioned earlier, and Teresa is actually somebody who has a vision for this, reaching out to our homeschool community, which I think is a need. It would be a lot of, it could benefit a lot of different ways. As we talk about how do we bridge gaps, maybe in our community, that would be another way that we can bridge a gap, between some of the people there. But that's obviously my recommendation. You guys get to make that difficult choice.
Thanks.
Teresa, I just wanted to say, well done. I love your school. You have an amazing staff. I should definitely get over there again, but I am super excited that other children will have access to Venture. So
Thank you for that. And you are always welcome. We
Thank
love
you.
it when you come to Venture.
Thank you. Well done.
Couple comments, or one just clarifying. So with the change, those 6 through 12 CDVA,
CDVA, yeah.
CDVA, thank you. Students, this is kind of a nerdy math question. So the divisor is going to be different on the ADA calculations for those students, because now they're going to be under that alternative line. And so it's 14 students generates a unit instead of 20 something. Right. So it's going to generate a little more funding in that regard.
Yep.
Which maybe allows for the transportation piece and some of the advising piece and those sorts of things. Okay. I love the idea, and I'm super happy that you guys have brought it forward. Early on in my board time, we were in talks with Post Falls about a joint middle school, kind of like a K-Tech, but an alternative middle school. And I think Post Falls has maybe done theirs in with their high school. But I think there is a need, and it may be a short-term need for some middle school students, right? They're struggling, or they're needing some extra support, and so maybe they're going in short-term, a semester, those sorts of things. So I think it's great. I like the little tweak in the name. I think unfairly there is a stigma associated with Venture at times. We've heard it in student hearings where parents, I don't want my kid going there, not knowing what it is. And so I like the tweak in the name. Trent, I like a different approach. I like Venture Academy, a different approach. Because that's what it is. It's a different approach for our kids. And when you go to your graduation, which is always my favorite because it's under 40 minutes, and the kids have really overcome obstacles, and they share and talk about those obstacles, but they all talk about the approach. And you said it tonight in the comments, that you got on the postcards. The kids are talking about, it was the first time a teacher cared for me, or it recognized me, or met me where I was at, or those sorts of things. And, a tagline like that might help also with that stigma, that's unfair. So I think it's all great. So thank you.
All right. Any further questions? All right. Is there a motion then? There is a written motion there in our packet.
I move to approve the request to change the name of Venture High School to Venture Academy as presented beginning the 2023-24 school year.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. New name. There you go. All right. We've got a new course, first reading.
Good evening again. Yes, I'm just bringing tonight before the board two new course proposals. One is for an advanced TA office aide that would receive 1 credit per semester instead of 0.5 credits per semester. this person would do more challenging tasks that then perhaps they would be having opportunity to do in the classroom that are defined in the course proposal. And then the second is for Interactive Media 1.
Anyone have questions about either of those? They're both in our packet. Nope.
They should.
All right.
I'd make a motion to accept the courses as presented and advance them to the public comment period.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Any opposed? No. All right. We have two special board meetings coming up then, May 17th, which will be the special board meeting right here. And that's the day after the levy vote. And we will also be bringing back curriculum on that date as part of that special board meeting, May 22nd. We've got our special board meeting workshop here. I'm going to take a motion right now to move into executive session per Idaho Code 74-206J to consider labor contract matters authorized under Section 74-206A. And if there's a motion, we'll take care of that and then take a break.
So moved.
Second.
Do we need a roll call?
Okay. Trustee Smith?
Yes.
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 All right. We'll take a quick recess to use the bathrooms and whatever, and then we'll come back and move into executive session.